What if everything you've been taught about Yahweh, the God of the Israelites, was not the complete truth? What if the stories you've heard, the interpretations you've accepted, were merely a partial view of a much larger, more profound reality? This isn't just a theological debate. It's a journey into the depths of consciousness, a quest for personal power, and an invitation to reshape your understanding of both the divine and yourself. We are about to challenge the most fundamental assumptions of one of the world's most widely held beliefs, and in doing so, we may very well redefine the concept of divinity itself. Consider that the traditional narrative of Yahweh, passed down through generations, may obscure the genuine origins and nature of this powerful force, and it's not just an issue for theologians or religious scholars. This is a question that resonates at the core of your own being and understanding of your connection to the cosmos. Instead of a literal, anthropomorphic deity sitting on a throne in the sky, what if Yahweh was a representation of a primal cosmic energy, a force that shaped the universe, a collective consciousness that has evolved over vast ages? Could the stories of the Old Testament be veiled symbolic representations of deeper universal principles, waiting to be unlocked by those who seek the truth beyond the surface? This video will delve into the heart of these questions, contrasting familiar religious dogma with alternative, often suppressed interpretations. We will explore the idea that what has been presented as a single, continuous narrative is in fact a combination of multiple interwoven belief systems, spanning thousands of years, evolving from a much more diverse set of spiritual traditions found throughout the ancient Near East. The history of the Israelites and their relationship with Yahweh will be investigated to reveal that these beliefs developed over time and were in fact influenced by other cultures and mythologies that surrounded them. Understanding Yahweh beyond the confines of orthodox religious thought is crucial because it opens a door to your own potential. This isn't merely an academic exercise, it is an exploration that will lead to self-empowerment and a greater understanding of the universe and your place within it. The traditional views of Yahweh, often portraying a judgmental, interventionist God, have unfortunately placed limitations on individual potential, fostering fear and dependence on an external authority, instead of recognizing the inner power that already resides within. The true understanding of Yahweh is therefore not just an exploration of a distant God, but the path to recognizing the divine within yourself. Imagine if the very concept of an external deity was a veil, obscuring the true nature of your inner potential. This knowledge, suppressed and manipulated by institutions for ages, has the power to bring liberation. This video will explore core themes of self-discovery, personal responsibility, and the ability to consciously shape your reality. We will move beyond the confines of outdated religious interpretations to present the concept of Yahweh as a pathway to understand the self, not simply a set of commandments to blindly follow. This is about reclaiming your own power and understanding your connection to the cosmic forces that shape reality. The concept of Yahweh is not merely a historical study, but a deep dive into the human psyche, our collective consciousness, and a method of self-discovery. The concept of Yahweh may not have emerged in a vacuum, but could in fact be a combination of other earlier deities, a synthesis of religious ideas from other ancient cultures such as El, Baal, and Asherah. Understanding these interconnections will provide an entirely new perspective on the historical evolution of monotheism. The esoteric traditions, such as the Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and Gnosticism, offer alternative ways of understanding the divine, viewing it as a universal principle, a cosmic force, rather than a singular anthropomorphic entity. These perspectives do not deny the divine, but see it as something that is present within all of creation, a force that operates through universal laws and patterns, all of which are also part of you. Furthermore, we will explore the idea that the concept of Yahweh, as it has been presented, may be a projection of the human psyche, an archetype that reflects inner experiences and our collective unconscious. This Jungian perspective offers the potential to move from the idea of an external God to an internal divine spark, a connection that empowers the individual through self-knowledge and personal transformation. In addition, we will find that these ancient spiritual understandings of a unified field or interconnectedness of all things are mirrored by modern scientific discoveries in quantum physics and consciousness research. These surprising parallels reinforce the notion that we are part of a much larger interconnected system, not separate from the divine. But what if the accepted narrative of the Israelites was not entirely accurate? What if the Old Testament was not only a book of stories, but contained hidden codes and esoteric messages? What secrets and deeper meanings have been overlooked by traditional approaches to the Bible? Some traditions suggest that the path to a deeper understanding of the divine is not through unquestioning faith, but through the seeking of hidden knowledge, a path that leads towards personal empowerment. The goal here is not to dismiss the traditional view, but to explore a more comprehensive understanding, one that places you at the center of your own spiritual experience. By the end of this journey, you will see Yahweh yourself and the universe in a way you never thought possible. We will go beyond conventional religious frameworks and into a realm of self-discovery, empowerment, and the recognition that the power of the divine resides not in a distant God, but within the very core of your being. If the idea of a singular, unchanging Yahweh feels incomplete, it's because the historical record suggests a more complex origin story, one that challenges the notion of a unique, original deity, separate from other traditions. What if the God of the Israelites evolved from a shared religious landscape, a tapestry woven from the beliefs of the ancient Near East? The commonly accepted view of Yahweh often portrays him as a deity who emerged fully formed, entirely distinct from the gods of other cultures. However, archaeological evidence and textual analysis reveal a far more nuanced picture, suggesting that Yahweh may have had his origins in the Canaanite pantheon. The god El, for example, was a high god in the Canaanite religion, and many scholars suggest that Yahweh was initially a regional deity who over time absorbed many of El's traits, such as his epithets and symbols of power, including his association with mountains and storms. Think of this like a river that is slowly joined by other streams along its course, growing and changing as it progresses. It's not a singular source, but a confluence of different currents that have come together over time to form something new. This directly challenges the idea of a divine revelation from a single source, inviting us to explore how religious ideas were actually exchanged, blended, and transformed as different cultures interacted. These weren't separate belief systems that evolved in isolation, but instead dynamic systems that influenced each other through continuous interchange. The practice of syncretism, the blending of different religions, was common in the ancient world, and understanding this practice is essential to unveiling the hidden origins of Yahweh. As different cultures encountered each other, they would often incorporate each other's deities into their own pantheons, reinterpreting them to fit their own unique narratives. Specific Canaanite deities such as Baal, often associated with storms and fertility, and Asherah, a mother goddess linked to the sacred tree of life, were not just separate from Yahweh, but also became intertwined with Yahweh's narrative. This mixing of traditions wasn't an attempt to undermine the belief systems, but instead a method of integrating new ideas into existing frameworks. The Israelites, like other cultures of the time, participated in this process, borrowing from and adapting the religious practices of those around them, creating a syncretic faith that was constantly evolving. It wasn't a static system of belief, but a living, breathing tradition that developed as the people themselves encountered new cultures and ideas. Consider for a moment how this perspective challenges the orthodox view that Yahweh was an isolated deity, untouched by the influences of the surrounding world. What if the stories passed down through generations were not the product of divine revelation alone, but a result of this mixing and blending. This approach can unveil a more complete view of how religious beliefs are formed and altered through human interaction. Early Israelites didn't adhere to strict monotheism, but instead practiced henotheism, the worship of one God, while acknowledging the existence of others. Yahweh, in the early stages of the Israelite religion, was not the sole creator of the universe, but the primary deity of the Israelite tribes, and other gods were still recognized as having their own domains and powers. Certain passages in the Old Testament reveal that the Israelites frequently worshipped other gods alongside Yahweh, including Baal and Asherah, indicating a less exclusive form of religious devotion. The idea of Yahweh's supremacy was not always a given, but rather, it was a slow evolution, moving through a period of multiple gods to an eventual consolidation under a single deity. Think of it as an evolutionary process, where different forms of religious practice competed for prominence, and the worship of Yahweh gradually gained dominance over other forms. This approach challenges the traditional narrative that the Israelites always practiced monotheism, indicating that the concept of a singular God was not a sudden revelation, but a gradual development. So the question arises, was the eventual monotheism a product of a unique divine encounter or a consequence of socio-political forces? This invites us to question the nature of religious authority and consider the human influences that shape our understanding of the divine. The transition from henotheism to monotheism in ancient Israel was not solely a theological shift, but a change that was significantly influenced by political and social factors, potentially driven by a need for unity amongst the tribes. As the Israelite tribes unified into a single nation, it became important to have a single God to unify them under a single banner, as a common source of loyalty, reinforcing the power of the kings and establishing a central authority. The concept of a singular deity, therefore, can be seen as a means of consolidating power, and not simply a response to divine revelation. The shift towards a strict monotheism was also shaped by the religious leaders of the time, who sought to purify the religious practices and to distinguish the Israelites from their neighboring cultures. This move away from polytheism and henotheism to a rigid monotheism, therefore, was not only about changing spiritual views, but also about the social and political landscape of that time. This perspective does not diminish the importance of the Israelites' spiritual journey, but rather emphasizes the complex interplay of religion, politics, and social dynamics in shaping their faith. Could the emphasis on a singular deity, then, be more about consolidating power rather than an unquestionable divine truth? What if the narrative that has been passed down through generations was, in fact, a carefully constructed story designed to serve specific social and political aims? This approach not only challenges the dogmatic view of a single, unchanging Yahweh, but prompts a deeper examination of the human role in shaping our perception of the divine. Moving from the historical context, let's now consider that the texts themselves might not be as straightforward as they appear, and that beneath the surface, there could be hidden layers of meaning waiting to be explored. What if the literal interpretation of the Old Testament is just one way of understanding these ancient texts, and that there exist deeper esoteric truths that have been largely overlooked? The limitations of a literal reading can be seen in the inconsistencies, the contradictions, and the symbolic language that often seems to point towards deeper meanings beyond simple historical accounts. Think of it as reading a complex poem as if it were a simple historical record, missing all the nuances of language and meaning that were intentionally woven into the text. These texts, like many ancient traditions, may contain allegories, metaphors, and coded messages designed to be understood on multiple levels. The surface story may be a starting point, but the deeper esoteric meanings often provide access to more profound universal truths. In this light, the concept of Yahweh moves from a singular anthropomorphic God to a complex symbol, representing a variety of universal forces and archetypal principles. By understanding the text in this new light, we open up new pathways of understanding, creating space for us to explore the hidden depths of these ancient mysteries. Many passages in the Old Testament, when interpreted esoterically, reveal profound insights into the divine and the nature of reality, far beyond the scope of simple literal interpretations. Take the creation story in Genesis, for example, often understood as a historical account of how the world was made in 7 days. But what if this story, instead, was an allegory of the individual's journey of self-discovery, where the 7 days represent the different stages of human development and consciousness? The image of the tree of life, often interpreted literally as a tree in the Garden of Eden, could be seen as a symbolic map of the human psyche and its relationship to the divine, much like the Kabbalistic tree of life. Even the story of the Exodus, viewed as the liberation of the Israelites from slavery, can be interpreted as an allegory of the human soul's journey from ignorance to enlightenment. Specific examples such as these, viewed from an esoteric lens, offer a deeper understanding of the sacred texts, one that moves beyond the literal into the realm of archetypal symbols and universal truths. This approach shows us that the Old Testament is not just a collection of historical stories, but a deep repository of spiritual knowledge, intended to awaken the inner potential of the reader. By reinterpreting these commonly known stories, we are not dismissing the traditional view, but adding new layers of understanding to create a much more complete perspective. Ancient texts often utilized numbers and sacred geometry as a means of embedding deeper levels of knowledge, connecting these texts to universal principles, showing the underlying patterns of creation. Numbers in ancient texts were not just for counting or measuring, but carried symbolic weight and were often used to represent fundamental aspects of the cosmos. Sacred geometry, with its precise shapes and proportions, was viewed as the blueprint of the universe, revealing the underlying structures of reality and connecting the microcosm to the macrocosm, showing that these are all reflections of a unified whole. The geometric forms found in nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the branching patterns of a tree, were understood to reflect the same patterns found throughout the cosmos, suggesting an interconnectedness of all things, where the micro mirrors the macro. These geometric shapes were used in the construction of sacred sites, as well as within the texts themselves, often acting as visual keys to understanding the deeper mysteries. The knowledge of these patterns was not open to all, and was reserved for those who were initiated into the mysteries and willing to seek out deeper meanings. Therefore, numbers and sacred geometry, seen in this light, offer us a unique path for deeper study and reflection, moving beyond the surface into a more profound understanding of the underlying principles of the universe. What if the Old Testament contained hidden codes or symbolic languages designed to reveal deeper levels of meaning to those who are willing to seek them out? This concept suggests that the ancient scribes were not just writing down simple stories, but were encoding spiritual truths for future generations, using techniques such as gematria, where letters are assigned numerical values, and anagrams, where words or phrases are rearranged to reveal hidden messages, providing us with methods to unlock hidden secrets within the texts. These techniques were not arbitrary or random, but were often used by Kabbalistic mystics to delve into the deeper meanings of Scripture, with the intention of unveiling previously hidden knowledge. By applying these techniques to the Old Testament, entirely new perspectives emerge, pointing to more complex systems of meaning than is typically assumed. This idea that texts may contain hidden messages is not unique to the Old Testament and can be found in other ancient traditions. Think of these texts as a kind of treasure map designed to guide seekers on a journey of self-discovery, unveiling truths that have been hidden in plain sight for generations. Therefore, the possibility of hidden codes within the Old Testament offers a unique opportunity for deeper exploration, moving beyond the traditional interpretations and inviting us to uncover the wisdom that has been embedded within the texts for centuries, and thus taking us closer to understanding the full nature of Yahweh. If we approach the divine as a force or principle instead of a singular anthropomorphic entity, many ancient traditions offer us valuable insights and provide us with a broader and more expansive view of the nature of the cosmos. The Kabbalistic tradition, for instance, presents the divine as Ein Sof, the infinite, without limit, a boundless source of energy from which all things emanate. The Sephirot, the 10 emanations or attributes of God, are seen as archetypal energies that flow throughout the cosmos, representing the different levels of creation and the various aspects of the divine. These principles are not abstract concepts, but rather dynamic forces that are actively shaping the world. This perspective shifts the idea of Yahweh from a personal God to a universal principle, a source of energy and intelligence that pervades all of reality. These are not just ancient ideas, but concepts that provide a new framework for understanding the relationship between the divine and creation, and provide us with practical methods for personal transformation. By viewing Yahweh through the lens of the Kabbalah, we begin to see that the divine is not an entity that is separate from the universe, but the very essence of its existence, inviting us to reconsider our own relationship with the creative force and empowering us to take an active role in our own self-development. The Hermetic tradition also offers a framework for understanding the divine as a set of universal principles, with the most famous being as above, so below, which suggests that the patterns of the universe, as they are expressed in the macrocosm, are reflected in the microcosm. This idea connects the seen with the unseen, showing that the universe is a unified and interconnected system, and that these patterns are operating throughout the whole of creation. The Hermetic principles, such as the principle of vibration, which posits that everything is in constant motion and that different frequencies create different realities, further underscore that there are underlying rules that govern the cosmos, and that these rules apply equally to the material and non-material worlds. By relating these principles back to the concept of Yahweh, we can view the divine not as a separate entity, but as the embodiment of these universal laws and principles. The divine, therefore, is not something that sits outside of creation, but is the very force that drives it and sustains it, offering a more expansive view of Yahweh as a cosmic principle, not an individual. This connection to universal principles allows us to understand our place within the larger cosmic order and reveals that there are patterns that are consistent throughout all levels of existence. The Gnostic teachings provide a unique view of creation, often describing a creator god known as the Demiurge, who is seen as flawed or less than the true divine source. Unlike other traditions that view the creation of the material world as inherently good, the Gnostics saw the physical world as flawed, a limited expression of the true divine. This Demiurge, in some Gnostic traditions, is associated with the God of the Old Testament, but it is not the highest divine principle. This view challenges the idea of a perfect creator God, suggesting that the material world is not a complete reflection of divine perfection, and is instead a realm of illusion and limitation. The Gnostic view also emphasizes the importance of inner knowledge, or gnosis, as a path to liberation, and the idea that each individual carries a spark of the true divine within. Gnostic texts, such as the Nag Hammadi library, provide alternative perspectives that directly challenge the orthodox view of the creator God, inviting us to question the nature of reality and the nature of the divine itself. By reinterpreting the idea of an imperfect creator, we are free to understand our own relationship with the divine in a new light, one that places us on an individual journey to personal understanding. The Gnostic understanding, then, provides us with another piece of the puzzle in the search for a deeper understanding of Yahweh, one that emphasizes the inner journey towards self-discovery, as opposed to the strict adherence to external religious dogma. These three traditions, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and Gnosticism, though distinct in their origin, share common threads and recurring themes, reflecting a unified body of esoteric knowledge that transcends time and culture. Each tradition, in its own unique way, speaks to the concept of a divine force, the interconnectedness of all things, and the path of self-discovery, all of which offer a pathway for a more comprehensive understanding of the divine and the nature of reality, thus forming a cohesive whole. These are not separate systems, but varying perspectives of the same underlying reality. What if these seemingly different traditions are all pointing to the same universal truths, and that by recognizing these interconnected themes, we can move closer to a more complete understanding of the divine? By drawing upon these traditions, we are not simply studying different religious systems, but recognizing a universal spiritual language that has been passed down through generations, offering us tools for self-understanding and transformation. Now, let's consider that our concept of God may be less about an external entity and more about a reflection of our own inner landscape. What if our image of Yahweh is a projection of the human psyche, an archetype that embodies our deepest fears, hopes, and aspirations? The Jungian perspective on the God image offers us a revolutionary view, suggesting that the way we see the divine is deeply connected to our own inner workings. The God image in this light is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic and ever-evolving concept that reflects our own inner development and is in fact a mirror of our own selves. The way we relate to the divine, according to this view, says more about our own inner world than it does about the divine itself. When we see Yahweh as a stern judge, for example, this might be reflecting our own inner critic, or when we see the divine as a loving father, it might be pointing to an inner need for nurturing and protection. By seeing these different viewpoints as representations of different inner states, we begin to understand that our view of God is deeply influenced by our own personal experiences, creating space for us to change our understanding of these concepts. The Yahweh archetype, as seen through a Jungian lens, is not a singular static entity, but a collection of different aspects, each reflecting different parts of the human psyche, offering us an in-depth view of ourselves. The Yahweh that is perceived as a stern judge represents the inner critic, that portion of ourselves that judges and punishes, while the Yahweh that is viewed as a compassionate father shows our inner need for love and nurturing. Different cultures view God in different ways, and these perspectives reflect a variety of inner psychological needs, including feelings of guilt, forgiveness, and the search for meaning. The concept of Yahweh, like other archetypes, is not a fixed image, but a dynamic representation of the human experience, and it changes and evolves as we do. By understanding these archetypal patterns, we can come to a deeper understanding of ourselves, as well as our relationship with the divine, showing us that these inner states are also connected to the ways we view the world around us. Therefore, by exploring these different archetypal representations of God, we are not merely studying theological concepts, but undertaking a profound journey of self-discovery. The idea of the shadow, the repressed or unconscious aspects of the self, also plays a key role in the Jungian understanding of the God image, because what we often see in our conception of God is not our true selves, but an amalgamation of all our repressed aspects and the things we disown in ourselves. If we have difficulty seeing our own anger, we may see an angry God, or if we have difficulty accepting our own capacity for love, we may project that onto a loving and compassionate God. Our projections of the shadow onto the divine can lead to distorted views and also prevents us from taking ownership of our own inner states. The idea of an all-powerful God who is separate from us can create a sense of helplessness and dependency, obscuring our own inner potential. This does not mean that God is not real, but instead that our experience of the divine is filtered through the lens of our own psychology, thus emphasizing the need for self-awareness and inner work. By understanding the dynamics of projection, we can begin to reclaim the aspects of ourselves that we have projected outward, which also allows us to cultivate a much more balanced and integrated perspective of both ourselves and the concept of the divine. If our concept of God is a projection of our inner world, and we recognize that our perceptions of Yahweh are a reflection of our own psyche, then this understanding provides a pathway for deep personal transformation. By understanding these psychological roots, we can move beyond the confines of traditional dogma and into a realm of self-awareness and empowerment. This journey is less about worshiping an external deity and more about understanding the divine within ourselves. As we begin to integrate the different aspects of our psyche, including the shadow, we can cultivate a more balanced view of the divine, moving from a concept of a distant and judging God to an ever-present and loving force within us and in the world. This perspective shifts our focus from an external salvation to an internal awakening and puts personal responsibility back into the hands of the individual. Therefore, by realizing the psychological nature of our concept of God, we are not only changing our view of the divine, but also unlocking our own inner potential and opening ourselves up to the possibility of true self-mystery. If our concept of God is indeed a projection of our inner world, then it's time to ask, what if the divine isn't a who, but a what? What if Yahweh is not an anthropomorphic being, but rather a fundamental cosmic principle, a creative force that underlies all of existence, a universal energy that permeates every part of creation, instead of a separate entity that intervenes in our lives? The traditional view of Yahweh as a personal God, with human qualities, emotions, preferences, and a distinct personality, may be a limited and incomplete perspective. This concept is not about dismissing the idea of God, but about expanding our understanding of the divine, moving beyond the confines of religious dogma and into a realm of deeper, more expansive awareness, one that connects us to the very fabric of the universe and positions us as active participants in the unfolding of reality. Perhaps the divine is not a being to be worshipped, but a force to be understood and harnessed, an energy to be worked with and directed with conscious intention, allowing us to become co-creators of our own reality. Many ancient traditions describe the divine not as a personal God, but as an impersonal force, and by understanding these traditions, we can reinterpret Yahweh as a similar energetic principle. The Hermetic tradition, with its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things, views the divine as a universal energy that flows throughout the cosmos, a concept that aligns with the idea of Yahweh as a fundamental force. Think of it like an electrical current, unseen, yet present everywhere, and capable of powering all that is, and this is similar to the way that the Hermeticists view the divine. The Kabbalistic concept of Ein Sof, or the limitless light, is another way to perceive this creative energy, and this light, it is said, is the source of all manifestation. This idea directly connects with the notion that Yahweh is not a singular entity, but a primordial energy from which all things emanate, with every level of reality a reflection of this original light. Consider the Sephirot of the Tree of Life, and how these 10 emanations are various expressions of this limitless energy, illustrating how the divine permeates all levels of existence and provides a framework for understanding the relationship between the material and the spiritual worlds. Therefore, by viewing Yahweh through these lenses, we can transcend the limitations of a personal God and connect with the divine as an all-encompassing, universal force, creating a pathway to understanding the underlying creative principles that are shaping our reality. The term Elohim, often translated as God in the Old Testament, is actually a plural form in Hebrew, and this fact alone suggests that the ancient Israelites may not have viewed the divine as a singular entity, but as a collective of creative energies or intelligences. This idea connects with the earlier discussion of polytheism and suggests that the concept of a singular God may have evolved from a more pluralistic view, with the various deities being recognized as different aspects or expressions of the one unified source. Instead of a singular God creating the world, think of a team of architects, each contributing their unique expertise to the building of a grand design, working together as one unified whole. These pluralistic nuances, often overlooked in traditional interpretations, suggest that the ancient understanding of the divine was far more complex and dynamic than is commonly understood, challenging the traditional view of a singular, interventionist God. The usage of plural language, while referring to one concept, can also be found in other ancient texts, further solidifying the viewpoint that this is not a unique case in the Old Testament, but rather a common linguistic approach that implies a unified collective. Therefore, by recognizing this plurality within the concept of God, we are opened up to a deeper and more expansive view of the divine, one that sees the cosmos as a manifestation of diverse and interconnected energies, not a singular source. This concept of Yahweh as a universal energy also finds parallels in modern science, and the notion of the quantum field provides a framework for understanding this connection. The quantum field, a fundamental concept in physics, posits that the universe is filled with a vast ocean of energy, from which all matter and energy emerge, and that this energy is constantly fluctuating and interacting, creating the reality we experience. Consider the idea that matter is simply energy in a highly condensed state, and that what appears to be solid is in reality a dynamic field of vibrating energy. This is very similar to the esoteric view that all is energy, and this idea suggests that the ancient mystics, through their own unique practices and insights, were aware of the same truths about reality that are only now being revealed through modern science, thus bridging the gap between ancient wisdom and modern understanding. These scientific parallels do not diminish the spiritual significance of Yahweh, but they reinforce the notion that the divine is not a supernatural entity, but a natural principle that operates throughout the cosmos and is subject to universal laws, and that the deeper understanding of these laws can empower us to take an active role in our own evolution. Therefore, by recognizing these connections between ancient wisdom and modern science, we can deepen our understanding of Yahweh and our own place within the universe. If we shift our focus from Yahweh as a cosmic principle to the historical context of the Israelites, we discover a narrative that challenges the traditional view of a unified people with a singular origin, suggesting that their relationship with Yahweh evolved over time, alongside their own collective identity. The idea of the Israelites as a monolithic group, with a shared history and set of beliefs, may be a simplified view, and it obscures the diversity of the ancient Israelite tribes. What if the Israelites, instead, were a diverse collection of tribes, each with their own unique practices and beliefs, that eventually coalesced into a single nation with a singular dominant deity? This idea challenges the traditional view of a unified religious system, suggesting that the development of their religion was a result of social, political, and spiritual dynamics that were occurring throughout their history. Think of it as a mosaic, composed of many different pieces, each with its own unique color and shape, forming a cohesive whole, but still retaining a diversity of origin and influence, which has created a complex tapestry of traditions and a more nuanced picture of the relationship between the Israelites and Yahweh. Therefore, by recognizing this diversity within the ancient Israelite culture, we can gain a more complete and accurate understanding of their history and their religious development. The characteristics and attributes of Yahweh, as they appear in the Old Testament, did not remain static, but instead evolved over time and reflected the changing social, political, and spiritual needs of the Israelites, with his portrayal changing based on the collective and cultural consciousness. In early texts, Yahweh is often depicted as a warrior god, leading his people into battle, whereas in later texts, he is often portrayed as a compassionate and forgiving deity. This is not to suggest that there were different versions of Yahweh, but that these different aspects of the divine were being emphasized by the collective as needed by their society at the time. Think of a chameleon, changing its colors to adapt to its environment, but remaining the same creature underneath the different displays. And this is how the concept of Yahweh shifted and changed over time. This evolution of Yahweh's character shows that he was not simply a static, eternal being, but a dynamic concept that developed alongside the changing needs and values of the Israelites, which provides additional support to the notion that the divine is a reflection of the collective consciousness. By examining these evolving characteristics, we can begin to see how Yahweh is not an unchanging force, but an idea that is constantly being shaped by the human experience, revealing a dynamic interplay between humanity and the divine. The potential origins of Yahweh in other earlier deities suggests that he may not have been unique to the Israelites, but a synthesis of various gods from the region, further solidifying that he is a product of collective human experience. Some scholars propose that Yahweh absorbed characteristics from the Canaanite god El, adopting his epithets and symbols of power, while other research shows direct connections with the warrior god Baal and his connection with storms and chaos. This is not about diminishing the significance of Yahweh, but about recognizing that his origins are more complex than is often presented. Think of it as a river, drawing from many different sources and becoming a larger, more complex entity, with each of those sources adding to its overall flow and character, demonstrating the blending of traditions that is common throughout history. This exploration of Yahweh's origins challenges the idea that he emerged in a vacuum, untouched by the religious beliefs and practices of the surrounding cultures. The warrior attributes, for example, that are often associated with Yahweh are also found in many other gods of the region, reflecting a common archetype that was being expressed across multiple cultural systems and points to a wider spiritual landscape. Therefore, by exploring these potential origins of Yahweh, we uncover a more interconnected view of the ancient world, where religious ideas were exchanged, adopted, and transformed, showing that ideas evolve over time and grow based on the collective that adopts them. Various ancient beliefs and practices may have been incorporated into the Yahwistic tradition, and by exploring these connections, we see a more intricate and interconnected origin of the religion than is typically understood. The syncretic nature of ancient religions meant that different cultures would often borrow from and adapt each other's traditions, mixing and blending symbols, myths, and rituals in the process, integrating practices from other cultures into the developing understanding of Yahweh. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, shared many parallels with early Israelite traditions, including creation myths, flood stories, and the emphasis on ritual purity, as seen in the practices of the mystery schools of Egypt that directly connect to early Israelite religion. These parallels suggest that the Yahwistic tradition was not formed in isolation, but that it was actively interacting with and being influenced by the surrounding cultures, creating a rich and varied tapestry of beliefs and practices. Consider the symbols and practices found throughout both the Israelite and Egyptian traditions, and how their similarities suggest a common source of knowledge, or at least a cross-cultural pollination of concepts. Therefore, by exploring these syncretic elements within the Yahwistic tradition, we are given a more complete and nuanced picture of its origins, one that moves beyond the orthodox view of a unique and isolated faith, and into a more interconnected view of the development of religious belief. If our concept of God is a projection of our inner landscape, as has been previously discussed, then what does our view of Yahweh say about our own psychological state, our inner fears, and our longings, and how might these insights help us in our path of self-discovery and personal transformation. The psychological impact of the God image is profound, and the way we view the divine has a direct impact on our mental and emotional well-being. A stern, judgmental God can create feelings of fear and guilt, leading to anxiety and a sense of inadequacy, while a loving, compassionate God can bring comfort, support, and feelings of connection. These different views, however, are not necessarily about the actual nature of God, but about our own personal history and our own internal states, thus highlighting the importance of understanding our own psychological framework in our journey towards self-discovery. The concept of sin, for example, can lead to feelings of shame and self-condemnation, impacting our self-esteem, which is one of the many ways in which a strict and unforgiving God can have a negative influence on the human psyche. Therefore, recognizing this psychological connection between our view of God and our own well-being is a fundamental step towards self-awareness and personal growth. By recognizing that the divine resides within each of us, and not solely as an external force, we can empower ourselves to see our own potential, realizing that the qualities we seek in God are in fact within ourselves. If we view Yahweh as an external judge, we might also feel like we lack control over our lives, leading us to feel helpless and dependent on an outside source. But by realizing that divine qualities exist within us, we can see ourselves as being active participants in our own lives. The divine is not something to be sought outside ourselves, but a potential to be activated from within, a concept that moves us from the passive role of a worshipper to the active role of a co-creator of reality. Consider the potential for self-transformation that this change in perspective can bring about, and how you would approach your life if you knew that the power of creation lies within you. This internal shift not only empowers us to make conscious choices, but also encourages us to take responsibility for our lives, rather than placing that responsibility on an external entity, thus allowing us to become the masters of our own destinies and the active architects of our personal experience. The concept of the collective unconscious, developed by Carl Jung, suggests that we all share a common reservoir of human experience, and that the God archetype is a universal pattern within this collective unconscious, expressing that we all connect on a deeper level. This archetypal image, with its different aspects and expressions, is a part of the collective experience that shapes the human journey and provides a framework for understanding our own inner development, as it touches on deeply human needs for love, for meaning, and for purpose. This also connects back to the concept that we are all interconnected and part of a unified whole, a common consciousness that transcends our individual experiences, and through which we share a connection to the same universal archetypes. Specific examples include the archetypes of the hero, the mother, and the trickster, all of which are universal patterns found across cultures and time, which provides a framework for understanding not only human psychology, but also the universal concepts that influence the expression of the divine. Therefore, by exploring these archetypes, we gain a deeper understanding of the shared human experience and how our inner world is mirrored in the way we perceive the divine, and it can assist us in our journey of self-discovery. Understanding our personal concept of Yahweh provides us with a pathway for self-discovery and personal transformation, because as we explore our concept of God, we are also exploring our own inner world, our beliefs, our values, and our deepest fears and longings. This journey of self-discovery is not about conforming to a particular religious dogma, but about coming to our own personal understanding of the divine, an approach that puts us directly on the path of personal responsibility and inner power. It is a journey of integration, one where we come to embrace all aspects of ourselves, the light and the shadow, and the different parts of our psyche that are reflected in our concept of God, thereby making us more whole. Think about how your concept of God might have changed throughout your life, and what those changes might reveal about your own inner development. This active self-reflection combined with a shift in perspective, brings about a transformation, moving us from a place of dependency on an external source of authority to a place of inner empowerment, personal growth, and ultimately self-mastery. Now that we've explored these deeper understandings of Yahweh and how these concepts connect to our own inner potential, let's move into the practical applications of ancient wisdom so that we can harness the power within us to create true and lasting transformation in our lives. The Kabbalistic tradition offers a variety of techniques that can be used to enhance focus and meditation, including specific visualizations of the Tree of Life. This sacred symbol, with its 10 sephirot, represents the different attributes of the divine, and by meditating on its structure, we can begin to understand the underlying principles that govern the cosmos and our connection to them. This is not just an abstract concept, but a practical tool for inner development, a symbolic map that guides us towards greater awareness and deeper connection. Think of it as a lens, focusing your attention, allowing you to see through the illusion of separation and connect to your inner power. This guided meditation allows you to use the Tree of Life as a tool for deep reflection, and as you visualize each of the different sephirot, you can begin to understand your place in the grand scheme of the universe, creating a deeper sense of purpose, meaning, and connection. The Hermetic tradition provides us with practical methods of breathwork designed to manage our energy and create inner balance. These ancient techniques, which are often referred to as the science of breath, are not just about the physiological process of breathing, but about using the breath to control our vital force, moving us towards a more balanced and integrated state of consciousness. Techniques such as the 478 method or the alternate nostril breathing method can be used to calm the nervous system and balance the different energy channels within the body, leading to increased focus and an elevated sense of well-being. Think of your breath as a rudder on a ship, guiding you towards a more centered and stable place, one where you are in control of your energy. Through consistent practice, you can harness the power of your breath to transform your internal landscape, and you will begin to see that these simple practices can bring about profound shifts in your overall state of being, moving from a place of chaos to a place of deep harmony and balance. Yoga and similar energy practices can assist us in balancing our energy systems and aligning with our higher consciousness. These practices, which incorporate physical movement, breathing, and focused intention, create an avenue to connect the physical body to the spiritual realm, and they recognize the body as a sacred vessel through which we can express our inner divinity. Specific exercises, such as sun salutations and balancing poses, are designed to open up the energy channels within the body, allowing for a freer flow of life force and a deeper connection to our inner self. Think of your body as a finely tuned instrument, and these practices as methods of bringing that instrument into perfect harmony. By integrating these methods into your daily routine, you not only enhance your physical well-being, but you also open the door to deeper levels of spiritual awareness, creating a pathway for the body, mind, and spirit to work as one unified whole. Finally, meditation techniques are essential tools for connecting with higher consciousness and for activating our inner power. Various methods of meditation, including mantra meditation, mindfulness meditation, and visualization techniques, can help us to quiet the mind and access deeper levels of awareness, moving us from the chaotic world of thought into the peaceful realm of presence. Specific techniques, such as focusing on the breath or on a specific image, can help to anchor the mind in the present moment, allowing us to access the deeper wisdom that is within and to harness the power of our own consciousness. Think of meditation as a key, unlocking a door to your inner power, and as you continue to practice these techniques, you will discover your own unique methods of connection, gaining access to the boundless potential that lies within. By consistently applying these ancient practices to your life, you will not only experience a change in your own inner world, but also unlock your ability to create the life that you have always imagined for yourself. If the divine is not an external entity, a celestial patriarch sitting on a throne, but rather a fundamental force, an all-pervading energy that animates all of creation, then what limitations do we place on ourselves when we cling to the notion of a personal God, a being separate from ourselves who intervenes in the affairs of humanity? Consider the implications of such a limited perspective. We become passive recipients of divine will, surrendering our power and potential to an external authority, forever seeking validation and salvation outside of ourselves. The traditional view of a personal God, while comforting for some, is also a cage, a set of rigid dogmas that restrict our understanding of the divine, creating a separation between us and the source of all creation, while keeping us in a state of spiritual dependency. And if we continue to only see the divine as an external force, we will fail to see that the source of creation also resides within us, where true transformation can occur. But what if this perceived separation is an illusion, a misinterpretation of ancient wisdom, and the truth is far more empowering, inviting us to become active participants in the unfolding of our own destinies, rather than helpless puppets on a cosmic stage? What if Yahweh is not a who, but a what, not a being to be worshipped, but a principle to be understood and harnessed, an impersonal creative force that permeates all levels of reality, connecting us to the very fabric of existence? This shift in perspective, from a personal God to a universal force, is not about diminishing the concept of Yahweh, but about expanding our understanding of the divine, moving beyond the limitations of dogma and into a more expansive view of our true nature. Ancient creation myths, from cultures around the world, often speak of an impersonal creative force that precedes all creation, not a singular God. The Egyptians spoke of the Nun, the primordial waters of chaos, from which all things emerged, while the Taoist concept of the Tao describes an impersonal source that is the origin of all existence. And these concepts reflect a universal understanding that the divine is not a being, but an underlying principle of creation. So what if Yahweh is simply another expression of this universal understanding, and a reflection of a deeper truth about the nature of reality? If Yahweh is a universal force, and all-encompassing consciousness that permeates all of creation, then what is our relationship to this force, and how can we better understand the interconnectedness of all things, not as separate entities, but as parts of a unified whole? The concept of universal consciousness suggests that all beings are interconnected, sharing a common source of intelligence, and that this shared consciousness is the basis of all creation, where every thought, every feeling, and every action has an impact on the whole, revealing that we are all active participants in a dynamic, interconnected system. The Hermetic principle of all is mind further suggests that the universe is fundamentally mental, and that consciousness is the underlying substance of reality, an idea that finds astonishing parallels in modern quantum physics, which reveals that the observer plays a crucial role in shaping the nature of reality, with consciousness and observation being seen as fundamental building blocks of the universe. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates this principle, revealing that particles behave differently when observed, shifting from a wave to a particle state, and that our conscious observation has a direct impact on the manifestation of reality. This seemingly paradoxical behavior is not just a quirk of quantum physics, but a deep insight into the nature of consciousness, suggesting that the universe is not a fixed, objective reality, but a malleable field of potential, shaped by the very act of observation. Therefore, by understanding our interconnectedness and the power of our consciousness, we can begin to see that we are not just passive observers in the universe, but active creators of our own experience. How does the idea that consciousness itself can influence physical reality change your view of how you participate in creation? If Yahweh is the source of all creation, then is he also distinct from creation, or is creation simply an extension of this divine energy? And if this is the case, then what does it mean for our understanding of the relationship between the divine and the world? The Kabbalistic concept of Ein Sof, or limitless, describes the divine as an infinite, boundless source from which all existence emanates, and this emanation is not a separate act, but an ongoing process where the divine is continuously expressing itself through creation. The 10 Sephirot, the emanations of the tree of life, are seen as different aspects or expressions of this infinite source, revealing the diverse ways in which the divine manifests in the world, and each level of reality becomes a reflection of this original light, moving from the most subtle to the most dense, showing the interconnectedness of everything. The concept of the primordial waters, found in various creation myths, including the Old Testament, also point to a similar understanding, where creation is seen as emerging from a formless, undifferentiated source, with water often seen as the symbol of pure potentiality from which all things are born, and this suggests a universal understanding that the source of creation is not a separate entity, but the very ground of all existence. The various traditions each point to a singular source of all that is, with specific examples found throughout various mythologies, reinforcing that there is a fundamental understanding of the nature of creation, and not a collection of separate entities. Therefore, by recognizing Yahweh as the very source of creation, we can see that we are not separate from the divine, but rather, we are an integral part of the creative process itself, an expression of this divine energy and a direct link to the source of all that exists. If we understand that we are all interconnected parts of this vast cosmic force, and that we each carry a unique expression of this energy, then how can we better align our personal will with the universal flow, allowing us to become more conscious co-creators of our reality, and what practical steps can we take to realize this potential? Aligning with the universal flow means understanding that we are not separate from the source of creation, but rather an integral part of it, and by recognizing our inherent connection, we can begin to tap into the infinite potential that resides within. When we act in harmony with the universe, we are not imposing our own will on reality, but instead we are acting as a conduit for creative energy, and with each action, we become active participants in shaping the world around us. Our internal alignment is reflected in our external experiences, and when we are at peace with ourselves, we also create peace around us, and when we act from a place of fear, we create more fear in the world. The power of intention is key to aligning our personal will with the universal flow, and when our intentions are clear and our hearts are aligned with our goals, we create a powerful force that can manifest our deepest desires. This also aligns with the Hermetic principle that, as within so without, revealing that our inner state is reflected in the outer world, creating a mirror where we can see our own power in real time. Therefore, by understanding our interconnectedness and the power of our consciousness, we can learn to create with clarity, intention, and purpose, aligning our personal will with the universal flow, becoming active co-creators of our own destiny, and participants in the larger unfolding of the cosmos. If Yahweh and the religion of the Israelites was a static system, then why is there so much evidence that it changed over time, with various interpretations and traditions blending into its formation? And what does this say about the very nature of spiritual belief and our relationship with religious dogma? The historical record reveals that the Israelites' understanding of Yahweh and their own religious practices was not fixed, but evolved over time in response to various social, political, and spiritual influences, often adapting to the needs of the people. The period of exile, for example, was a transformative time for the Israelites, and during this period, they began to see Yahweh not just as a tribal god, but as a universal deity who presided over all nations, and the idea of monotheism, the belief in a single God, was formalized during this time. But what if this shift to monotheism was not a divinely ordained event, but rather a reflection of their changing identity and an attempt to create a unified identity in the face of adversity? The various changes to the character of Yahweh and how he was portrayed demonstrate that the religious system was in constant development, with specific textual examples showcasing a blending of earlier concepts with newer interpretations. The various contradictions and alterations in the Old Testament reveal that the religious system was adapting over time, not being handed down from a single source. Therefore, by recognizing the fluidity of the Israelite faith, we can see that religious belief is not a static dogma, but a dynamic process shaped by the changing experience of those who practice it, giving us permission to question, adapt, and evolve our beliefs. If the Israelites, like many cultures, borrowed from and integrated other traditions, then how does this mixing of ideas change our understanding of the origins of Yahweh, and what does it mean for the concept of a single, unchanging divine source? The historical evidence suggests that the Israelites were not isolated, but were interacting with other cultures, adopting some of their beliefs, practices, and deities, and this is common across all of human history. Asherah, a Canaanite goddess, was worshipped alongside Yahweh for some time, and this is not a unique case, but common throughout the historical record of the area. Various local gods and goddesses, each with their own unique attributes and powers, were integrated into the developing Israelite religion, and these syncretic practices reveal a more complex picture of the origins of Yahwehism, where the lines between different religious systems were often blurred, with constant cross-pollination of symbols, myths, and stories. This is not to diminish the significance of the Israelites' faith, but to recognize that their religious beliefs evolved through a dynamic process of cultural exchange and integration. The evidence of the blending of these systems challenges the idea that Yahweh was a unique and isolated deity, showing that he was part of a larger tapestry of religious beliefs, drawing from a range of traditions and highlighting a more complex reality. Therefore, by recognizing the syncretic nature of the Israelite faith, we are given permission to move past rigid views and into a more nuanced view of religious development, where ideas are constantly being adapted to meet the needs of the collective. If Yahweh was not always seen as the only God, and other deities were acknowledged alongside him, then what does this say about the origins of monotheism, and how does it change our understanding of the Old Testament and its traditional interpretations? There are many passages in the Old Testament that suggest that the Israelites were not always monotheistic, and that they acknowledged the existence of other gods alongside Yahweh, showing that the origins of monotheism may be more complex than is typically presented. Specific verses that directly mention other gods and goddesses and even show where they were being worshipped have been traditionally interpreted as an indication of Israelite infidelity, where the people were straying from the correct path. But what if these passages reveal a more nuanced picture, that the Israelites may have been henotheistic, acknowledging the existence of other gods, while still considering Yahweh to be their primary deity, and that this transition to monotheism was a gradual process and not a sudden event? These texts, when viewed through this lens, reveal that the concept of a single God emerged slowly over time and was influenced by various social and political forces, directly challenging the traditional understanding that monotheism was the original and divinely ordained belief of the Israelites. If we look at the evolution of the language and the various translations, we can see how the meaning can be subtly changed based on the bias of those translating the ancient texts. Therefore, by recognizing the textual evidence of henotheism, we can gain a deeper understanding of the development of religious ideas and traditions and move past a rigid and limiting view of the divine. If the historical record reveals that belief systems change over time, and are adapted based on the needs of a people, then what does this mean for our own personal spiritual paths? And how can we use this understanding to create more meaningful and authentic relationships with the divine, without clinging to outdated dogmas? Understanding the fluidity of belief systems empowers us to question traditional dogma and to forge our own unique spiritual paths, realizing that the way we relate to the divine is not fixed, but can evolve over time, and that our personal experiences are just as valid as any tradition. This is not about rejecting tradition, but about recognizing that traditions are dynamic and that they have evolved over time. We are not bound to the beliefs of our ancestors, but we have the power to create our own unique understanding that is relevant for our lives today, and this allows us to move past the rigid structures that can stifle the spiritual journey and into a more open and expansive view. The concept of Yahweh and other religious systems were originally created to meet specific needs of their time, but as our collective consciousness evolves, so too must our own understanding of the divine to better suit our modern needs. Therefore, by recognizing the fluidity of belief systems, we can free ourselves from the constraints of outdated dogmas, allowing us to create our own unique spiritual paths, one that is authentic, meaningful, and empowering, placing our personal experience at the forefront of spiritual validation. If our view of the divine is, in fact, a projection of our own inner landscape, as has been previously discussed, then what does the stern and often judgmental depiction of Yahweh say about our own psychological shadow, the repressed and disowned parts of ourselves, and how can we integrate these aspects of ourselves to create inner wholeness? The psychological concept of the shadow refers to the unconscious parts of ourselves that we often reject or deny, and these repressed aspects are often projected onto the concept of God, creating a divine image that is harsh, unforgiving, and demanding. If we see God as judgmental, then we might be projecting our own inner critic onto the divine, and if we see God as wrathful, we might be reflecting the anger that we hold inside, and these projections can lead to feelings of guilt, fear, and unworthiness, creating a cycle of self-doubt that hinders our personal and spiritual development. The constant emphasis on sin and punishment can create an inner world that is filled with anxiety and self-condemnation, which are often expressions of our own unintegrated shadow that has been projected onto the divine, reinforcing the idea that it is our own internal battle that we are really waging, and not an external battle against divine judgment. Specific examples include fear-based theologies that are often used throughout history to control populations, highlighting the dangers of projecting our own shadow onto a concept of God. Therefore, by understanding the shadow side of the God archetype, we can begin to recognize and integrate these disowned aspects of ourselves, moving toward wholeness and self-acceptance, rather than the self-condemnation that is often reinforced by traditional religious structures. If our shadow is being projected onto the divine, creating a stern and judgmental view, then how can we integrate these disowned aspects of ourselves and use this process to move towards wholeness, becoming more authentic, balanced, and powerful individuals? The journey of self-discovery is not about denying the shadow, but about embracing it, and when we acknowledge our fears, our insecurities, and our negative traits, we begin to integrate these aspects into our conscious awareness, moving past the idea that these are not valid parts of our experience. The process of integration allows us to become more authentic and balanced individuals, where we recognize our full spectrum of emotions and behaviors without suppressing or denying any part of ourselves. The polarities that exist in our inner landscape are also a reflection of the polarities that are present in the universe, and by accepting both the light and the dark within, we move past the idea of duality and into a state of wholeness. If we are trying to deny our shadow, we are denying a part of ourselves that will eventually surface in destructive ways. Therefore, the path of wholeness is the path of integration and not separation. Therefore, by embracing our shadow, we not only become more self-aware, but we also unlock the power and potential that lies within, allowing us to live more authentically and fully, moving from a fragmented self to an integrated whole. If we are the vessels of the divine and not separate from the source of creation, then what does it mean to internalize the God image? And how does this shift in perspective empower us to take ownership of our lives, moving past the idea that there is an external source of power or salvation? By internalizing the God image, we realize that the qualities we often attribute to the divine are not external, but are within us, and the qualities of love, compassion, and wisdom are not things to be sought outside of ourselves, but rather capacities that reside within our own being. This shift in perspective is incredibly empowering, transforming us from a passive worshiper to an active participant in our own lives. We begin to see our own potential for creativity and for bringing greater good into the world, no longer waiting for a divine intervention, but instead, we realize that we are each capable of making a difference. Specific examples include individuals who have achieved self-empowerment by making the shift from looking outside of themselves for a solution to embracing the divine potential within their own being. The power to create, the power to heal, the power to love is not something that we have to ask for. It is a natural part of our own being and something that we can access through self-reflection and intention. Therefore, by internalizing the God image, we not only realize our own inherent power, but we also begin to see that the divine is not some distant entity, but a living force that animates all of creation and resides within each one of us. If the journey towards wholeness is about integrating our shadow, then what practical methods can we employ to connect with our inner landscape and to create a more harmonious relationship with the aspects of ourselves that we have previously disowned, so that we can finally step into our personal power? Shadow work techniques are practical ways to connect with the unconscious, providing a path towards self-discovery and integration. Journaling can be a powerful tool for identifying patterns and emotional triggers, creating a space for conscious reflection and allowing us to see our shadow aspects and their manifestations with greater clarity. Meditation and mindfulness practices allow us to observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment, creating a pathway to the unconscious and allowing these hidden aspects of the self to rise to our awareness without suppression. These inner explorations, when done with intention, can reveal the hidden patterns that often drive our behaviors and give us a greater understanding of the deeper dynamics of our own psyche, by creating an opportunity to integrate our disowned parts. Through this process, we move from self-rejection to self-acceptance, acknowledging that all parts of ourselves are worthy of love and compassion. Therefore, by employing these shadow work techniques, we can learn to embrace our full selves, moving towards a more balanced, integrated, and empowered expression of our true nature. If we are indeed the vessels of the divine, then what tools and practices can we use to connect with our inner power and to actively co-create the reality that we desire? And how can ancient wisdom, combined with modern techniques, assist us in this process? Sacred geometry provides a framework for understanding the underlying patterns of the universe, demonstrating that mathematical principles are present throughout nature, reflecting a universal order. And by using these sacred forms, we can create a deeper sense of alignment and intention in our lives. Specific geometric forms, such as the flower of life or Metatron's cube, act as energetic keys, providing a way to understand and to channel creative energy, with specific techniques of using these symbols during meditation and intention setting. These forms, which appear in nature and in the designs of ancient structures, carry a specific energetic signature that can amplify our intentions and enhance the power of manifestation. By integrating sacred geometry into our daily practices, we begin to see the universe as a dynamic system, operating under the principles of order and harmony, creating a pathway for us to access the power and potential that is within. Therefore, by using these ancient forms, we can align our own consciousness with the universal patterns of creation, becoming more conscious co-creators of our own reality. If energy is the foundational building block of the universe, then what methods can we use to better regulate this energy within our own bodies and minds? And how can the wisdom of ancient practices provide us with techniques to enhance our overall health and well-being? Breathwork techniques, derived from ancient traditions like pranayama in yoga, are designed to regulate the flow of energy in the body, and by consciously controlling our breath, we can influence our nervous system, manage our emotional states, and enhance our overall vitality. Specific breathing exercises, such as alternate nostril breathing and diaphragmatic breathing, are not simply physical techniques, but they are powerful tools for managing our energetic states, allowing us to move from stress and anxiety into a place of calmness and balance. The ancient sages understood that breath is a bridge between the body, mind, and spirit, and that by mastering the breath, we can also master our inner landscape. These breathing exercises can be easily integrated into our daily routines, and when done with consistency, they can bring about a profound transformation in our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Therefore, by understanding the science of breath, and by incorporating these techniques into our daily practices, we can regulate our own energy and enhance our ability to live more fully and consciously. If our consciousness is the key to unlocking our potential, then what specific practices can we use to tap into higher states of awareness and to access the wisdom that resides within, and how can we integrate these techniques into our daily lives, creating a path for lasting transformation? Meditation practices, which have been refined over thousands of years, provide a structured pathway for connecting with our higher consciousness, and these methods, which involve quieting the mind, focusing the attention, and cultivating inner awareness, create space for the wisdom of the unconscious to rise into our awareness, providing us with profound insights and creative solutions. Specific methods, such as visualization techniques, where we use our imagination to create desired outcomes, can be used to manifest our goals, and mantra meditation, where we use sounds or words to focus our intention, can help to quiet the mind and deepen our focus. These meditative states allow us to connect with the universal mind, tapping into the collective wisdom and accessing the inner resources that we have always possessed. And by committing to a daily practice, we can gradually expand our consciousness, allowing for greater awareness, deeper connection, and an enhanced ability to shape our own lives. Therefore, by integrating these meditation practices into our daily routines, we create a gateway to inner wisdom and a path for personal growth. If our belief systems shape our reality, then how can we identify and reprogram limiting beliefs? And how can we use this understanding to intentionally create the lives we desire, instead of the ones that have been imposed upon us by external sources, allowing us to finally become the conscious architects of our own destiny? Belief reprogramming techniques provide a set of practical tools for identifying our self-limiting beliefs and creating new empowering perspectives. And through this process, we not only change our inner landscape, but we also begin to transform the world around us, moving from a passive reactor to a conscious creator. Identifying negative thought patterns and self-sabotaging beliefs can be done through conscious self-reflection, journaling, and mindfulness practices, allowing us to see the deeper reasons that we are holding ourselves back. Then, through positive affirmations and visualizations of our desired states, we can begin to reprogram our subconscious mind, replacing old limitations with new possibilities. And this process is not simply about changing our thoughts, but about changing our energetic vibration and aligning our intentions with our deepest desires. These methods demonstrate the direct connection between our beliefs and our experienced reality, reinforcing that all is mind, allowing us to create the life that we have always dreamed of. Therefore, by mastering the power of belief reprogramming, we are able to consciously shape our reality, moving from a place of limitation to a place of limitless potential. If we have learned anything on this journey, it is that the true source of power does not lie in an external deity, but within our own being, and that by tapping into this inner wellspring of creative energy, we can become the conscious co-creators of our own reality, moving from the role of the seeker into the role of the master. The divine is not some distant entity that we must chase after, but an intrinsic part of our very nature, a force that we can access through self-reflection, intention, and practical practices that have been tested for millennia. When we realize that we are the vessels of the divine, we stop searching for an external savior, and instead, we look inward to find the answers that we have always sought. We recognize that the power to create, to heal, and to love is not something that we have to ask for, but a potential that lies dormant within us, waiting to be awakened through the cultivation of self-awareness and through conscious application of universal laws. Therefore, by acknowledging the inner source of power, we begin our journey towards self-mastery. We each have the ability to shape our own experiences, to transcend our limitations, and to create a life that is aligned with our highest potential. And this power is not granted to us by an external force, but it is a natural part of our being, and it's our responsibility to awaken to our potential. Our beliefs, our intentions, and our actions all have a direct impact on the world around us, and when we become conscious of this dynamic, we take ownership of our lives, no longer seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance, but as empowered agents of change. This responsibility is not a burden, but a source of liberation, freeing us from the constraints of outdated dogma and from the limiting belief that we are helpless in the face of life's challenges. When we shift our focus inward, we realize that we have the power to create our own destiny, that we each hold the keys to our own liberation, and the ability to shape a life that resonates with our deepest values and desires. Therefore, by accepting our personal responsibility, we step into a place of empowerment and the conscious creation of our own unique and powerful realities. The knowledge and wisdom that we have explored provide us with tools for personal transformation, allowing us to live in harmony with the universe and to actively shape our own lives, aligning our actions with universal principles, creating a life that is filled with meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. And this is not simply a theoretical concept, but a practical path that we can integrate into our daily routines. The ancient Hermetic principles, the wisdom of the Kabbalah, and the practices of yoga and meditation are not just interesting ideas. They are practical keys that have been used for millennia to unlock the power of human consciousness and to create a life that is aligned with the laws of the cosmos, allowing for true self-mastery. The path to empowerment is not found through seeking external salvation, but through internal mastery and through the active integration of these principles into our daily lives. And by using these principles to shape our lives, we not only transform ourselves, but we also contribute to the collective consciousness, creating a world that is more loving, compassionate, and just. Therefore, by living in alignment with these universal principles, we not only tap into our true potential as conscious creators, but we also become agents of change in the world and catalysts for evolution. The power is in your hands. If the reality that we perceive is not as solid as we believe, then what if it is a sophisticated simulation, a meticulously crafted construct that operates under a set of coded laws? And how might this radical idea change our understanding of Yahweh and our place within the cosmos? The notion of a simulated reality is not just a modern fantasy of science fiction. It is a concept that has roots in ancient philosophical traditions, suggesting that our senses are not providing us with a true reflection of reality, but rather they are interpreting coded information in the same way that a computer interprets data. Think about a video game where the world appears real and solid, yet it is simply an illusion created by lines of code. And what if our own reality operates under similar principles, where the physical world is a series of coded interactions that create the illusion of a solid, separate world, when in reality, it is a vast web of interconnected information? This idea challenges the most fundamental assumptions of our existence, prompting us to question the very nature of what is real, and how we participate in its creation. And what if Yahweh is not the external God of tradition, but a metaphor for the programming force, the architect of the simulation, the mind behind the code? The exploration of simulated reality brings forward questions about the true nature of consciousness and how we participate within it. And what if the perceived limitations are not a fault of our being, but of our own perceptions? If our reality is indeed a simulation, then is Yahweh the programmer, the architect of this meticulously crafted world? And what does this mean for our understanding of his role, not as a separate entity, but as the underlying principle of this complex system? The Gnostic concept of the demiurge, a flawed creator god, is often seen as the force behind the material world. And while this notion presents the demiurge as a separate being, what if we can interpret this as a deeper principle, a force behind the programming, and a metaphor for the underlying code that structures our simulated reality? And if we view Yahweh not as a personal God, but as the embodiment of this programming force, then we can begin to see that our experience of reality is determined by the parameters set by this initial code. This is not to diminish the significance of the divine, but to expand our understanding, allowing us to move past the limitations of anthropomorphic interpretations and into a realm of more expansive understanding, where Yahweh becomes a representation of the universal mind, the source of all creation, which also acts as a framework for the reality that we perceive. The parameters and rules of the simulation, which are designed to create separation and to limit our awareness, can be changed by the understanding of the code and the power that we hold within our own consciousness. Therefore, by understanding Yahweh as the programming force, rather than a separate entity, we become empowered to recognize the limits of this code and to explore the potential for conscious change, and ultimately, liberation from the simulation. If our reality is a simulation, and Yahweh is the programming force, then how can we begin to understand the coded nature of our world, and how can our awareness and intention shape the parameters of this simulation, allowing us to become more conscious participants in its unfolding? The observer effect in quantum physics demonstrates that the act of observation itself influences the behavior of quantum particles, showing that consciousness is not separate from reality, but actively participates in its creation. And in this context, our awareness can be seen as a lens through which we are able to focus the energy of potentiality into a specific manifestation. Therefore, if our reality is a simulation, then our conscious intention becomes the key that unlocks the code, allowing us to manipulate the parameters and change the outcomes. Specific examples include the power of intention in healing and manifestation, showing that our thoughts and beliefs have a direct impact on the physical world. The ancient wisdom traditions understood the power of intention, teaching that thoughts are the first cause, the building blocks of reality, and that through focused attention and clear intention, we can become the conscious creators of our own experience. And if this is true, then the power to change our reality is not external, but resides within our own awareness. By recognizing the coded nature of reality and our power to shape it, we can move beyond the role of the passive observer and step into the role of the active creator. If our reality is a simulation, then are there glitches in the system, anomalies that reveal the underlying code, and how can we learn to recognize and interpret these moments as a means of expanding our own awareness and accessing the deeper dynamics at play? Synchronicities, those seemingly meaningful coincidences, may not be random occurrences, but rather they are breaks in the pattern, moments where the code of reality is showing itself, and they can be seen as opportunities to step outside the programmed limitations of our daily experience. Déjà vu, that strange feeling of having already experienced something, may be a glitch in the system, where our awareness is momentarily overlapping with a previous or parallel experience, offering glimpses of other possibilities. Repeating patterns in our daily routines or the appearances of specific numbers may be a sign that the simulation is repeating itself or trying to convey a specific message. Specific examples include individuals who have used synchronicities as a guide for their life, or have noticed the repeating patterns in their daily lives as messages from the system, creating a deeper connection to the world around them. By developing a keen sense of observation, we can begin to recognize these anomalies as they arise, gaining insight into the mechanics of the simulation and the underlying codes that govern our lives, reinforcing that the world is a series of coded interactions, and we are the active interpreters of that code. If our perceived reality is a simulation built upon layers of coded information, then what is the relevance of quantum physics, and how does this modern understanding of the universe mirror the ancient esoteric traditions, showing a deeper interconnectedness between all things? Quantum physics, which explores the subatomic world, reveals that the universe is not as solid or fixed as we perceive it to be, and that reality at its most basic level is not made of matter, but of energy, and that these energetic particles exist in a state of potentiality, shifting depending on the act of observation. This is not just a scientific theory, but a confirmation of the ancient idea that the world is constantly in flux, a fluid and interconnected web of consciousness, and these ancient traditions understood that the observer plays a critical role in the creation of reality, where our perception shapes the experience. Specific concepts, such as entanglement, where particles are interconnected regardless of distance, mirror the ancient ideas that everything is connected through unseen energetic bonds, showing that the universe is not a collection of separate parts, but a unified whole, constantly interacting and exchanging energy, and these quantum principles reveal that our universe is not a fixed structure, but an ever-changing dance of energy, consciousness, and potential. By exploring the quantum world, we can see that the ancient ideas about interconnectedness and consciousness are not just abstract concepts, but reflections of a deeper scientific reality. If the quantum realm reveals that the universe is a web of interconnected energy, then what does the concept of quantum entanglement and its implications for our understanding of space and time say about the nature of our consciousness and the interconnectedness of all beings? Quantum entanglement, which demonstrates that two particles can be linked, regardless of the distance that separates them, challenges the classical view of reality, where cause and effect are limited by space and time, and instead, it suggests that the universe is not governed by locality, but by a non-local interconnectedness that goes beyond the limitations of our normal experience. The famous concept of spooky action at a distance, coined by Einstein, reflects a fundamental aspect of quantum physics that demonstrates that entangled particles react instantaneously, even if they are light years apart, and this implies that information is being exchanged without any physical transfer, suggesting that the connections that exist are not bound by our physical laws, and that they are instead existing outside of space and time. If this is true of subatomic particles, then what does this mean for our own consciousness, which might also be connected through similar non-local relationships? And if everything is interconnected, then our actions might have a much larger impact than we realize, creating a sense of interconnected responsibility that echoes through the cosmos. Therefore, by understanding quantum entanglement, we can begin to see the universe is a living network of consciousness, where we are not separate, but intrinsically linked, reflecting the ancient wisdom traditions that taught the interconnectedness of all things. If consciousness is not limited to the physical brain, then what if consciousness itself is a quantum phenomenon, a fundamental force that shapes the nature of reality? And how can this revolutionary idea empower us to take responsibility for our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions? The idea that consciousness is not just a product of the brain, but a fundamental aspect of the universe, has gained increasing attention in the field of quantum physics, where the act of observation is seen as playing a key role in shaping the nature of reality. And if consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, then our thoughts, our beliefs, and our intentions are not just subjective experiences, but active forces that influence the energetic field around us, having an impact on our external experience. The concept of collective consciousness, where all individual minds are connected by an unseen energetic field, suggests that our actions and intentions resonate with a larger network of consciousness, creating ripple effects that reach far beyond our personal reality. Specific examples include the research done on the power of group intention and how it can affect physical outcomes, demonstrating the power of shared consciousness. Therefore, by recognizing that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon, we not only empower ourselves to take responsibility for our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions, but we also start to understand the much larger implications of our individual actions, both within ourselves and within the collective consciousness. If our consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, and our intention shapes our reality, then how can we use this understanding to intentionally influence our lives? And how can practical manifestation techniques be viewed as a way to shape our individual quantum fields? Manifestation practices, which include visualizations, affirmations, and intention setting, are not simply wishful thinking, but rather they are methods for focusing our conscious attention and intention, directly influencing the quantum field to create the desired outcomes in a real and practical way. If our thoughts are the building blocks of reality, then by cultivating positive and clear intentions, we are aligning our consciousness with the universal flow of creation, creating a clear path for our desires to manifest in the physical world. And if our consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, then our thoughts and feelings are literally shaping the energetic field around us. The act of visualization, where we create a clear mental image of our desired reality, helps to program the subconscious mind, aligning our thoughts with our goals, and the use of affirmations, where we repeat positive statements, can help to shift our limiting beliefs and create new empowering perspectives. Specific examples include individuals who have used manifestation techniques to create a positive change in their life, showing how this is a real and practical method for transforming your reality. Therefore, by understanding the quantum nature of consciousness, we realize that our thoughts, feelings, and intentions are not just inner experiences, but powerful forces that can shape reality, allowing us to become conscious co-creators of our own experience. If we have the power to shape our reality, then why do we often feel trapped in cycles of repetition? And what limiting beliefs or programmed responses are keeping us from fully realizing our creative potential? And what does it mean to break free from these preset structures and step into our personal power? Our daily lives are often governed by programmed responses and automated behaviors, creating a sense of living on autopilot, where we are not consciously making choices, but rather we are reacting to external stimuli based on habituated patterns, and these routines, which are created from a lifetime of repetitive actions, can become a form of programming, limiting our awareness and our potential for change. The routines we follow every day, such as the routes we drive, the things we eat, and the way we speak, create limitations on our experiences, locking us into familiar patterns and limiting our awareness of alternative possibilities. Specific examples include individuals who have changed one small routine in their daily lives, creating new and surprising opportunities, that demonstrated that we are not locked into fixed patterns. By recognizing the programmed nature of our lives, we can begin to actively question our routines, creating new patterns that align with our conscious intentions and allowing us to move from a passive reactor to an active participant in our own life experiences. Therefore, by identifying these automated behaviors, we can start to make conscious choices that empower our experience and begin to break free from these limiting patterns. If our lives are governed by programmed responses, then how can we break free from these limitations, and how can we identify the limiting beliefs and thought patterns that keep us trapped, and then replace these with more empowering alternatives, allowing us to take the reins of our own destiny? Limiting beliefs, those negative assumptions that we hold about ourselves and the world, act as a type of program, shaping our perceptions and actions in ways that often undermine our goals. And by recognizing and overriding these patterns, we unlock our potential and step into our personal power by removing the barriers that are keeping us trapped in limitation. The first step is to identify these limiting beliefs and to become aware of the negative patterns that show up in our internal landscape. And through journaling and self-reflection, we can begin to see where the recurring negative thought patterns are keeping us stuck in a state of limitation. Then, through positive affirmations and visualization techniques, we can start to reprogram our subconscious mind, replacing old beliefs with more empowering alternatives and creating new potentials for our personal and spiritual growth. Specific examples include creating a list of positive affirmations and incorporating them into a daily routine that directly targets the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, demonstrating how practical techniques can create a powerful shift in perspective. Therefore, by actively reprogramming our limiting beliefs, we become more conscious co-creators of our own reality, rewriting the code that governs our lives and stepping into our full potential. If we are the authors of our reality and our thoughts are the seeds of creation, then how can we harness the power of choice and conscious creation to shape our experiences and to create a life that is aligned with our true potential? And what steps can we take to move beyond limitation and step into our full power as masters of our own destiny? Conscious choice is a powerful tool that can be used to shape our experiences and to create a life that resonates with our highest values. And every choice that we make, both big and small, influences our personal reality, creating a ripple effect that extends into the fabric of our lives. When we become aware of our choices, we move past living on autopilot and step into a position of power, realizing that we are not victims of circumstance, but the active authors of our own stories, and that our choices determine the direction of our lives. The ancient wisdom traditions taught the importance of living with intention, emphasizing that every thought, every word, and every action has consequences, and that by making conscious choices that align with our higher selves, we become active agents of change in our own lives and in the world around us. Specific examples include individuals who have made conscious decisions to step outside their comfort zone, and how that choice led to new and exciting opportunities that they never thought were possible, demonstrating how one choice can shift the entire trajectory of your life. Therefore, by understanding the power of conscious choice, we become empowered to create the lives that we truly desire, instead of the lives that have been imposed upon us by external sources. If we have the power to rewrite our personal code, then what specific methods and techniques can we use to shape our own unique reality? And what does this path of self-mastery look like in practical terms? And how can we begin to embody these concepts in our daily lives, starting today? Techniques for rewriting your personal code include practices such as visualization, affirmations, and intention setting, which are not just abstract concepts, but they are active methods of programming our subconscious mind, aligning our thoughts and emotions with our desired outcomes, creating a clear path for manifestation. The practice of visualization requires us to create a clear and detailed mental image of our desired reality, activating the creative centers of our mind and programming the subconscious to seek out and create the conditions for that reality to materialize. The power of affirmation requires us to repeatedly state positive and empowering beliefs, rewriting our limiting beliefs by instilling a new and positive self-perception. Intention setting is a conscious method for directing our energy and focus toward a specific goal, creating a clear path for action and manifestation in our daily lives. Specific examples include creating a visual representation of your desired future and using that image as a tool to direct your energy and attention, reinforcing your intention with specific action steps. Therefore, by using these practical techniques, we become the conscious architects of our reality, rewriting our personal code and creating lives that are aligned with our highest potential. If we are indeed rewriting the code of our reality, then what tools can we use to track our progress? And how can we maintain our focus along the path of self-mastery? And how can these practical techniques help to maintain a steady sense of forward momentum, creating a consistent pathway for long-term transformation? Keeping a reality journal provides a pathway for tracking the anomalies, patterns, and synchronicities in our lives, creating a method for seeing how our inner world is directly influencing the external, reinforcing the concept that reality is a mirror to our thoughts and intentions. This practice helps to bring awareness to our daily experiences, creating a detailed record of the subtle patterns that shape our lives, and allowing us to clearly see how the act of focused intention is shaping our reality in real time. Lucid dreaming techniques can also be used to actively explore the subconscious realm, where we can consciously navigate alternate realities, and the practice of meditation and mindfulness will enhance our awareness and control over our thoughts and perceptions, creating a space for deep inner exploration and understanding. And when combined, these techniques form a powerful toolkit for reshaping our inner and outer experience. Specific examples include tracking your dream states to see if you can find a correlation between your waking experience and how your subconscious expresses itself while dreaming, reinforcing the power of combining all of the techniques to maximize your creative potential. Therefore, by embracing these practical tools, we can navigate the simulated nature of reality with greater clarity, focus, and purpose. If we have learned that we are not limited by the constraints of our perceived reality, and that the potential for change resides within our own awareness, then what steps can we now take to integrate this knowledge into our daily lives, and to move towards a more conscious and powerful expression of our true potential? And how will this transform the journey of self-discovery? This brings us to a clear choice point, where we are now presented with two paths. We can continue to live our lives on autopilot, reacting to our external circumstances and living in accordance with the limitations of the simulation, or we can embrace the power of our own consciousness, take responsibility for our lives, and begin to actively create the reality that we desire. And both paths are equally valid. The choice is entirely your own. If you choose to embrace the path of self-mastery, then the knowledge and tools that we have explored are designed to empower your transformation and to assist you on your path towards a more fulfilling and authentic life experience. And this is not a passive endeavor, but an active and continuous engagement with your own consciousness. The transformation that is promised through these new perspectives is real and achievable. However, it requires action and a commitment to self-discovery. And as you start down this path, you will realize that the power that you have always sought was always within you, and that your own consciousness is the key that unlocks the code to limitless potential. This is only the beginning, and the path ahead will be filled with opportunities for growth, learning, and transformation, and we are here to support your journey every step of the way. The choice is now yours. What will you do? If you have chosen the path of self-mastery, then you must now explore the deeper meanings of the esoteric traditions. and how the ancient practices of ritual and ceremony can be transformed into powerful tools for personal transformation, and what was once viewed as outdated and dogmatic can be reinterpreted as potent methods for focusing intention and accessing the hidden realms of consciousness. Ritual and ceremony, which are often dismissed as mere superstitions or empty traditions, are actually carefully structured practices that, when properly understood, can help create shifts in perspective and help to integrate new beliefs at the subconscious levels. And these are not just antiquated traditions, but they are powerful methods for creating a bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. The use of repetitive actions, symbolic language, and focused intention can alter brain chemistry and create new neural pathways that in turn will create powerful actions and changes in both your internal and external realities. Specific examples include the use of chanting, drumming, and movement in ancient ceremonies, which when done with clear intention can alter the brainwave states, allowing for deeper access to altered states of consciousness. And this is not just about following a script, but is about understanding the underlying principles and the powerful effect that focused intention can have in creating a shift in both our inner and outer experience, showing that these are not just empty actions, but powerful psychological tools. By understanding ritual as a method of creating change, rather than a set of dogmatic rules, we can begin to unlock its true potential, transforming what was once a mundane practice into a dynamic method for personal transformation. If ritual and ceremony are powerful tools for focusing intention, then what is the deeper meaning of symbolic language, and how can we use symbols to communicate with the subconscious mind? And how does this deeper understanding unlock new possibilities for personal and spiritual growth? Symbols are not just pretty pictures, they are keys to understanding the hidden dynamics of the universe and our own psyches, acting as a type of coded language that can bypass the limitations of the conscious mind, speaking directly to the subconscious, where much of our programming resides. And if we can learn to speak that language, then we can consciously create the reality we desire. The pentagram, for example, is often seen as a symbol of dark magic, but in its more esoteric form, it represents the 5 elements, the human form, and the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm. And through this lens, we can see that the symbol is a key for unlocking a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to the cosmos. The Ankh is often seen as just a symbol of ancient Egypt, but it is also the symbol of eternal life, the joining of the masculine and the feminine, and the union of heaven and earth. And with this understanding, we can use the symbol as a tool for creating a deeper connection to the universe. Specific examples include the caduceus, with its intertwining snakes, which is often viewed as a symbol of medicine, but it also represents the Kundalini energy rising through the spine, showing that each symbol is a representation of a much larger concept. Therefore, understanding symbolic language, we can begin to communicate with the subconscious mind, directly altering our perceptions, beliefs, and ultimately, the nature of our reality. And in this way, symbols can be used as powerful keys for personal transformation. If symbols and rituals are tools for transformation, then what is the importance of intention and focused awareness? And how do these elements determine the effectiveness of any esoteric practice? And how does this tie back into our discussions on quantum physics and the power of the observer? Intention and focused awareness are the essential ingredients that determine the effectiveness of any esoteric practice, acting as the guiding force that directs the energy towards a specific purpose. And without these key elements, these practices may fall flat, demonstrating that it is not the actions, but the state of consciousness that drives the results. And when you begin to understand how intention and focused awareness are the underlying aspects of any practice, you will be able to see that they are the key to unlocking the power of any transformation system. If we recall the observer effect in quantum physics, where the act of observation influences the behavior of quantum particles, we can now see that our focused attention is the mechanism that shapes our experiences, both internally and externally. If we approach a ritual with a distracted mind, then the energy will not be focused, and the desired outcome will not manifest. But if our intention is clear and our awareness is sharp, we can use ritual to create a powerful shift in our personal reality, showing that the power is not in the ritual itself, but in the consciousness of the one performing it. Specific examples include individuals who have used meditation practices to focus their attention and direct their energy to create profound shifts in their lives, and those who approach those practices with a distracted mind find that the results are less effective, showing that the power is within the individual and not in the practice itself. Therefore, by understanding the importance of intention and focused awareness, we can begin to take responsibility for our own transformation and become conscious co-creators of our own experiences, realizing that these are not external practices, but tools for internal mastery. If intention and focused awareness are the keys to effective esoteric practice, then what practical methods can we use to create personalized rituals that align with our individual needs and goals? And how can we begin to integrate these ancient techniques into our modern lives to create practical results? Creating personal rituals for manifestation is not about copying what others have done, but about understanding the underlying principles and then tailoring the practices to fit your own unique needs and goals, understanding the symbolic language that moves you and the actions that create powerful states of being. And when you combine these elements, you create a potent method for transformation. Start by setting a clear intention for your ritual, determining exactly what it is that you wish to create, and then choose symbols, colors, and actions that resonate with your intention, building a container to focus that intent. Create a sacred space for your ritual, a place where you can feel comfortable and undisturbed, and then incorporate physical actions such as movement, chanting, or breathwork to activate the energy centers of your body, and then use visualization techniques or affirmations to program your subconscious with the desired outcome. Specific examples include creating a simple ritual for setting a specific intention and focusing on that intention with every step of the process, demonstrating how each element of the ritual can be a potent tool for focused manifestation. Therefore, by understanding how to create personalized rituals, we can move from abstract theory to personal practice, making these ancient tools relevant and actionable in our modern lives, and empowering ourselves with the tools of conscious creation. If we understand that we are powerful creators, then what about the concept of psychic abilities, and how can we begin to view them not as supernatural gifts, but as a natural extension of human consciousness? And how can this shift in perspective open new possibilities for personal growth and development? Psychic abilities are often viewed as supernatural gifts, reserved for a select few, but in truth, they are simply a natural extension of human consciousness, abilities that are waiting to be unlocked within each individual, and the power that you are searching for is not outside of you, it resides within your own being, waiting for your conscious awareness and intention. The idea that psychic abilities are supernatural comes from the belief that consciousness is limited to the physical brain, but we have explored the idea that consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, existing beyond the limitations of space and time, and that it is interconnected with everything else in the universe. If this is true, then psychic abilities such as telepathy, clairvoyance, and psychometry are simply the ability to access information and energy from the quantum field, a natural extension of our awareness and a fundamental aspect of our human potential. Specific examples include individuals who have displayed natural psychic abilities from a young age, as well as the growing amount of research into psychic phenomena, demonstrating that these are not just supernatural occurrences, but natural potentials that are waiting to be explored. Therefore, by recognizing that psychic abilities are a natural aspect of our being, we can shift from viewing them as impossible to understand and develop into abilities that we can all access, unlocking our full potential. If psychic abilities are a natural extension of human consciousness, then what specific techniques can we use to develop our intuition and inner guidance? And how can these practices help us to access information beyond the limitations of our five senses? Intuition, often referred to as our inner voice, is not just a feeling, but a form of inner knowing, a direct connection to the wisdom of our subconscious mind and the collective consciousness. And by developing our intuition, we gain access to a wealth of information that is not available to our conscious mind. Practices such as meditation can help to quiet the chattering mind, allowing our intuitive voice to become clear. And when practiced regularly, meditation will bring clarity and a deeper sense of self-awareness. Dreamwork can be used to interpret the symbolic language of our subconscious, unlocking insights into our hidden beliefs, patterns, and fears, and by paying closer attention to the symbols and feelings, we can unlock keys to our inner world. Specific ancient divination techniques, such as using the tarot or other oracle systems, are not simply about predicting the future. They are methods of tapping into our inner knowing and connecting to the archetypal energies of the collective consciousness, which can then help us to see the bigger picture. Specific examples include the research that is being done on individuals who meditate regularly, which shows a heightened state of awareness, demonstrating the power of quieting the mind to access a greater source of intelligence. Therefore, by cultivating these practices, we can develop a deeper connection to our intuition, accessing a source of wisdom that goes beyond the limitations of our rational mind, and allowing us to see the bigger picture and navigate our lives with greater clarity and confidence. If we can access inner guidance through intuition, then how can we consciously activate our energy centers and direct the life force within our bodies? And how can this practical understanding help us to move into a place of greater health and personal transformation? The body's energy centers, known as chakras in the yogic tradition, are not just esoteric concepts. They are real energetic vortexes within the body, influencing both our physical and emotional well-being. And by activating these centers and consciously directing the life force, known as prana or kai, we can unlock our potential for healing and transformation. The practices of yoga and qigong are not just exercises, but they are methods for circulating this vital energy throughout the body, releasing blockages and creating a greater sense of balance and well-being. Specific examples include the use of specific yoga postures that activate the individual energy centers, releasing stagnant energy and allowing prana to flow more freely, and the use of specific breathing techniques that can help to circulate energy throughout the body. When we understand these techniques, we become the conscious directors of our own energetic systems, and when we are able to move the energy freely, then we unlock the potential for healing and personal transformation. Therefore, by understanding how to work with our energy centers and direct our life force, we become active participants in our own well-being, moving into a state of greater vitality and balance. If we understand the power of focused intention, intuition, and energy management, then what practical steps can we now take to actively develop our psychic skills? And how can we use these practices to step further into our personal power? And how can we create a practical system to ensure results? Developing psychic skills requires patience, consistency, and a willingness to step outside of our comfort zone, recognizing that these skills are not external gifts, but natural abilities that are developed through practice and intention. And with a consistent system of practice, each of these potentials can be unlocked. Start by choosing a specific skill that you wish to develop, such as psychometry, which is the ability to read the energy of an object, or telepathy, the ability to communicate mind to mind, or clairvoyance, which is the ability to see beyond the veil of the physical world. Then set aside a dedicated time for daily practice, and then create a ritual to help you focus your intention and your energy. Use meditation to quiet the mind and open yourself to receiving intuitive insights, and then record your experiences in a journal, noting any patterns and synchronicities that emerge along your path. Specific exercises include taking an object from another person and meditating on it to see what feelings or images arise, using a partner to practice sending and receiving thoughts and images, and practicing with the symbol systems of ancient mystery schools to strengthen your intuition. Therefore, by creating a consistent practice, you will begin to activate these dormant potentials and expand your awareness, moving into a state of greater confidence and self-mastery. If the development of psychic skills is a journey of self-mastery, then how can the ancient principles of alchemy be seen as a metaphor for our own inner transformation? And how can this powerful system give us insights into the process of personal growth and the transformation of our shadow aspects? Alchemy, often mistakenly viewed as the simple transformation of lead into gold, is actually a profound metaphor for the journey of inner transformation, a process where we take our limiting beliefs and negative patterns and alchemize them into strengths. And the alchemical process of calcination, dissolution, and coagulation are not just about chemical reactions. They are descriptions of the steps required for personal transformation. Calcination is the process of burning away the impurities, the limiting beliefs, and negative emotions that keep us trapped in limitation, and it is about facing our shadow side and the parts of ourselves that we have suppressed or disowned. Dissolution is the process of breaking down old patterns and beliefs, allowing them to be reshaped into new and more empowering structures. This is the step where old beliefs fall away. Coagulation is the process of creating new structures and habits that are aligned with our higher selves, bringing all the parts together and creating a more complete being. Specific examples of this process can be found in the personal growth journey of many individuals who face their demons, release old habits, and rebuild new foundations for their lives. Therefore, by understanding the alchemical process, we can apply these principles to our own lives and use them as a guide for personal transformation. If alchemy is a metaphor for inner transformation, then how can we consciously transform our own lead into gold? And how can we use this understanding to integrate our shadow aspects and step into our true potential as a whole being? And how does this relate back to the concept of the demiurge? The alchemical concept of transforming lead into gold is not just about metals, but it is about transforming our own shadow aspects into strengths and recognizing that the aspects of ourselves we often try to deny are actually the keys to our wholeness. These shadow aspects, often seen as our negative traits, our fears and insecurities, are not things to be discarded, but rather they are powerful sources of energy and potential, waiting to be transformed. And if we can learn to acknowledge, accept, and integrate them, then we step into a greater state of wholeness. Think of the anger that is transformed into courage, the fear that is transformed into wisdom, and the sadness that transforms into compassion, all of which are key aspects of self-mastery. By denying our shadow, we are also limiting ourselves, and if we can embrace the full spectrum of our being, then we transform our limitations into strengths. Specific examples include the personal transformation stories of individuals who have confronted their own shadow aspects, and how this process has made them more compassionate, understanding, and powerful. Therefore, by accepting our full selves, we transform the lead of our shadow into the gold of our true potential. If the process of alchemy requires transformation of shadow and limiting beliefs, then how does purification and inner refinement fit into this journey, and what specific methods can we use to release old programming, allowing us to vibrate at a higher state of being? The process of purification is about releasing old programming, habits, and patterns that no longer serve our highest good, making space for a new and more empowered expression of self. And this is not just about physical cleansing, it is also about cleansing the mind and the emotions, creating an internal space that allows for a higher vibration to be expressed. The practices of meditation and breathwork can help to clear away mental and emotional clutter, creating space for new insights and perspectives, and specific breath techniques can help to release stored-up emotions, creating a more fluid and open energetic state. Fasting can be used as a method of physical purification, allowing the body to clear away toxins and create a new state of balance. Specific examples include the spiritual cleansing practices of many ancient traditions, showing that many cultures have an understanding that internal purification is required for spiritual advancement. Therefore, by embracing purification and inner refinement, we move towards a more powerful expression of our full potential, creating a space for our higher self to be expressed more clearly. If the alchemical process of inner transformation is the journey of self-mastery, then how can we take these concepts and apply them to our daily lives? And what specific practices can we use to transform our limitations and rewrite our personal code of reality? And how can we move from theory into consistent application? Applying alchemical principles to our daily lives requires a commitment to self-awareness and a willingness to transform our limiting beliefs and patterns, recognizing that we have the power to change the negative into the positive. Start by identifying the areas of your life where you feel limited, and then choose one area to focus on, and then explore that space with curiosity and compassion and without judgment. Then start using journaling and self-reflection to explore the roots of your limiting beliefs and negative emotions, and then ask what it would look like to see this pattern in a different light and how you might transform it. Specific examples include taking the negative emotion of anger and seeing what you can learn from it instead of just reacting, then turning that anger into action or compassion. Also taking the negative belief of I am not good enough and replacing it with I am enough right now, just as I am, and then acting from that place. Therefore, by taking responsibility for our own inner landscape and transforming our limitations, we apply the principles of alchemy to our daily lives, creating a more empowered and authentic version of ourselves. If the alchemical journey is about inner transformation, then how does this connect back to our discussions of quantum physics? And how do these ancient esoteric principles mirror our most current scientific understandings of the universe? And how can we use both to create a new synthesis? The convergence of esoteric thought and quantum science is not just a coincidence. It is a sign that these two paths of knowledge are ultimately leading to the same understanding, that the universe is not a fixed structure, but a dynamic and interconnected web of energy and consciousness, and ancient esoteric ideas about the nature of reality are now being validated by the findings of modern physics. And the idea that everything is energy is not just an ancient concept, it is a fundamental principle of quantum physics. The idea that consciousness plays a role in shaping reality is not just an esoteric idea, it is an observation that is directly supported by the findings of the quantum realm, where the act of observation influences the behavior of subatomic particles. Specific examples include the idea that the Akasha, the energetic field that holds the memory of the universe, is much the same idea as the quantum field, where all potentiality exists. Therefore, by understanding the intersection of ancient wisdom and modern science, we can move beyond the limitations of dogmatic belief systems and create a new paradigm that honors both the wisdom of the past and the insights of our present. If quantum physics supports the idea of an interconnected reality, then what is the concept of the unified field? And how does this idea reinforce the ancient understanding that everything is connected? And how can that new perspective transform our understanding of our own individual impact? The concept of the unified field proposes that all forces and particles in the universe are ultimately part of a single, interconnected field of energy, suggesting that there is no separation between us and the world around us. And this concept mirrors the ancient idea that everything is connected, that all of life is part of a single unified system. If the unified field is a singular field of energy, then our thoughts, feelings, and actions are not isolated events. They ripple through the fabric of reality, having an impact far beyond our individual lives. The ancient traditions taught that our individual actions have an impact on the whole, and with this understanding comes the need to take more responsibility for the lives that we are creating. Specific examples include the scientific studies that have shown the effect of group consciousness on the physical world, and these studies support the ancient idea of universal interconnectedness. Therefore, by understanding the unified field, we recognize that we are all part of a single system, where every action and choice matters. If we are all interconnected in this unified field, then what role does consciousness play in shaping our individual reality? And how can this awareness empower us to take responsibility for our thoughts and actions? And how does this tie back into the concept of Yahweh as a force of creation? Our consciousness is not just a passive observer of reality, it is an active participant in the creation of reality, and our thoughts, feelings, and intentions directly influence our external experiences, and with that power comes an incredible responsibility. If consciousness is the active force and the underlying aspect of all things, then our own awareness and intention becomes the key that unlocks the code. And by understanding that we have a direct influence on our own reality, we are empowered to make more conscious choices that align with our values and intentions. Specific examples include the research that shows the power of visualization and positive intention to create real results in physical experience, showing that our inner states are directly reflected in our external lives. Therefore, by recognizing the central role of consciousness in shaping our reality, we are not only empowered to create a life that resonates with our highest values, we also step into greater responsibility and become the active co-creators of our own experience. If our consciousness shapes our reality, then what practical steps can we take to live a life aligned with universal principles? And how can these actions create a more fulfilling and empowered life for both ourselves and the world? And how does all of this information come together to create a new perspective? Living a life aligned with universal principles requires a commitment to self-awareness, conscious intention, and a continuous pursuit of self-mastery. And this is not a passive endeavor, but an active engagement with the laws of the universe. The first step is to cultivate awareness and become conscious of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and to recognize how they are directly affecting our external environment. Then, begin to set clear intentions, choosing to align our goals with our higher values, and this means letting go of all the limiting beliefs that hold you back. Specific practices include daily meditation and self-reflection, and then choosing to take action that aligns with the highest version of yourself. And when all of these practices are combined, then the path to your own transformation begins to come clear. Therefore, by choosing to live in alignment with universal principles, we step into our full power and become a force for positive change in our own lives and the world around us. Now that you have explored these esoteric concepts and practical tools, you have a clear understanding that true power resides within each individual, not in external sources or deities, and that the path to self-mastery is found through inner exploration and personal practice, and that you are the creator of your own reality, and that you have the power to transform your life. The knowledge and techniques that have been shared are not just abstract theory, they are tools for profound personal transformation and a practical path for individuals seeking greater meaning and power in their lives. And now, you are prepared for the final sections of this video. and you have the tools that you need to make informed choices about your life and your beliefs. You now hold the key to your own transformation, and you are ready for the next steps that will reveal themselves as you move along your path. Now that you understand that true power resides within, not in external deities, we must now move from a static concept of God into a dynamic understanding of Yahweh as a living, ever-present force that is the source and sustainer of all reality, a flowing, ever-changing power that is not limited by the boundaries of traditional dogma, a force that is the very fabric of existence itself. And not simply a deity that resides outside the realm of human experience, but the very essence that gives life to all. Have you ever wondered why life always seems to move, to change, to evolve? It is because this force is constantly creating, shifting, and transforming. It is not a static concept, but a continuous and ever-flowing current of energy that is constantly birthing new expressions of itself. And this means that the nature of reality itself is constantly being created, moment to moment, from the interactions of this underlying force. Think of the seasons, the rise and fall of the tide, the movement of the planets, and even the breath in your lungs. All are expressions of this living force, demonstrating a constant and undeniable movement of energy, showing that it is not a concept but a living current. By understanding that Yahweh is not simply a static deity, but a living, dynamic force, we can move beyond the limitations of traditional dogma and step into a greater understanding of our own potential and our place within the fabric of existence. If Yahweh is the living force that permeates all of creation, then how is this force connected to the flow of energy throughout the universe and within each of our bodies? And how does this understanding empower us to take control of our own lives and direct our potential for transformation? This life force, known as prana, kai, or simply as the breath of life, is not just an esoteric concept. It is the very foundation of all existence. It is the energy that animates and sustains every living thing, and it is the mechanism through which the universe is constantly creating and recreating itself. And this life force is not just external, it is flowing within you right now, connecting you to the very source of all life. Modern science has begun to explore the concept that everything is energy, and that the universe is not just matter, but a vast field of vibrating energy. And this discovery is now aligning with the ancient esoteric understanding that there is a universal life force that flows through all things. When the flow of energy is disrupted or blocked, whether within the body or in the environment, it creates imbalance and limitation. And by understanding how this force flows and moves, we can begin to take steps to harmonize our own energy systems, removing the blocks that keep us in a state of disempowerment. Specific examples include practices such as breathwork, qigong, and yoga, all of which are designed to activate and direct this life force, thus enhancing both our physical and energetic well-being. Therefore, by connecting to the flow of this life force, we can become conscious co-creators of our own reality, using the flow of this energy to create a life of vitality, balance, and purpose. If the living force of Yahweh flows through all things, and if our consciousness plays a role in directing this flow of energy, then how does this understanding empower us to be active co-creators of our own reality? And how does this concept of conscious creation differ from the traditional idea of a passive and separate relationship with God? The power of consciousness is not just a passive observer of reality, but it is the very mechanism through which we actively shape and create our own personal experiences. And when we understand that our thoughts, feelings, and intentions are not just internal events, but are powerful forces that directly influence our external realities, then we begin to see that we are not simply subject to an external deity, but we are in an active partnership with the universe. The principle of quantum physics states that consciousness influences reality, and that the act of observation changes the behavior of quantum particles, showing that our individual actions and thoughts have a direct impact on the world around us, and that the power to create lies within your own consciousness, not outside of yourself. Specific examples include the power of manifestation, which is not a magical process, but a practical understanding of how intention, focused awareness, and consistent action create changes in our external experience. Therefore, by embracing our role as conscious co-creators, we move beyond the limitations of traditional dogma and step into our full potential as active participants in the unfolding of reality, no longer seeking salvation from outside, but creating it from within. If we are conscious co-creators with the living force of Yahweh, then what practical methods can we now use to consciously align our personal will with the flow of the universe? And how can we use these techniques to remove internal blocks that keep us from realizing our true potential and step more fully into our personal power? Aligning your will with the universal flow is not about forcing your desires onto reality, but about understanding the underlying principles of the universe and consciously choosing actions that align with these greater laws. And when our personal will is aligned with the natural flow of the universe, we create a life that is not only fulfilling, but also filled with greater ease and synchronicities. Intention setting is a key component of this process, and by consciously choosing our goals and aligning our intentions with our values, we direct the flow of the universe towards our desired outcome. And when this is combined with focused awareness, then our intentions become even more potent. Specific practices include energy protection techniques, which can help us to avoid being influenced by external forces, allowing us to move through the world with greater clarity and personal power, and daily practices of gratitude, which helps us to focus on the abundance of our lives instead of the perceived limitations. Therefore, by integrating these techniques into our daily life, we move beyond the idea of being passive observers and step into the role of conscious creators and the architects of our own lives. Now that we understand that Yahweh is not an external deity, but a living force, and that we are conscious co-creators, it becomes necessary to explore the illusion of separation, which is perhaps the greatest obstacle to experiencing our unity with all things, and how we can move beyond the limitations of this false belief to embrace the reality of oneness and interconnectedness. Have you ever felt separate from the world around you, isolated, alone, as if you are just a singular point of consciousness floating in an ocean of chaos? This feeling of separation is a construct of the mind, a limitation of perception, and not a reflection of the deeper reality, and the belief that we are separate individuals is a fundamental illusion that keeps us in a state of disempowerment and keeps us from realizing our true nature. The separation between ourselves, other people, and the divine is merely a story that we tell ourselves, a lens through which we have been taught to view the world. And just like any story, it can be rewritten, and this limited perspective keeps us trapped in a state of fear, competition, and lack. And as we begin to question the validity of this illusion, we begin to open ourselves to the possibility of unity and interconnection. Think of the idea that our five senses only perceive a limited range of the spectrum, and how this narrow band of perception gives rise to the illusion of separation. Therefore, by recognizing the illusion of separation as a construct of the mind, we begin to dissolve its limiting effects, opening the door to a deeper understanding of our true nature and our connection to the universe. If the illusion of separation is a construct of the mind, then what is the true nature of reality, and how does understanding the principle of oneness help us to move beyond the limitations of duality and competition? And how does this open a new perspective on compassion and empathy? The true nature of reality is not one of separation, but of oneness and interconnectedness, where all things are expressions of a single, unified consciousness, and the perception of individual existence is simply a localized perspective of a much larger universal field. Quantum physics has now begun to demonstrate the concept of entanglement, showing that two particles can be linked together, regardless of the distance between them, demonstrating that the interconnectedness of the universe is not just a spiritual idea, it is a fundamental aspect of reality, and if all particles are interconnected, then all expressions of consciousness are also connected. When we realize that there is no separation between ourselves, our neighbors, or even the natural world, we begin to see that every action we take has a direct impact on the whole, and the concepts of empathy and compassion begin to take on a whole new level of meaning. And it is through this understanding of unity that we begin to see ourselves as a single member of a larger organism. Specific examples include different spiritual traditions that have emphasized the importance of empathy and interconnectedness, demonstrating that this understanding is not new, but a foundational aspect of the human experience. Therefore, by embracing the concept of oneness, we move beyond the illusion of separation, stepping into a more compassionate and interconnected experience of life. If the true nature of reality is one of oneness and interconnectedness, then how can we move beyond the limitations of duality and embrace the concept of polarity? And how does this new understanding create a greater sense of wholeness and integration within our own experience? Duality, which is the perception that everything has an opposite, good and evil, light and dark, is another construct of the mind. And while it provides a useful framework for understanding the world, it also keeps us trapped in a cycle of conflict and separation. And the idea that everything must be one or the other is a limiting belief system that keeps us from seeing the bigger picture. Polarity, on the other hand, embraces the idea that opposing forces are actually two sides of the same coin, not in conflict with each other, but simply different expressions of the same underlying energy, and the interplay between these forces creates balance and harmony. And when we understand that both light and dark are essential for existence, then we see that both are required for wholeness. Think of the breath, the inhale and the exhale. Both are polar opposites, yet they are both required to sustain life, showing that the interaction of the two is a key component for a fully realized existence, and it is through the integration of these polarities that we achieve a greater sense of wholeness and understanding. Therefore, by transcending duality and embracing polarity, we move towards a more balanced, integrated, and complete version of ourselves. If duality is a construct of the mind, and polarity is the integration of opposing forces, then what practical techniques can we use to cultivate a sense of unity and compassion? And how can we use this understanding to move beyond separation and into a more harmonious experience of life? Cultivating a sense of unity and compassion requires a willingness to expand our perspective and to see the world through the lens of oneness, and this is not a passive endeavor, but an active process that is cultivated through awareness and intention. Meditation practices, for example, help us to quiet the chattering mind, allowing us to tap into our deeper connection to all things, and through meditation, we can begin to see that we are not separate from the world around us, but an integral part of it. Compassion practices, such as loving-kindness meditation, help us to cultivate a deeper understanding of others, and to recognize that their pain is not separate from our own, showing that there is no difference between them and us. Specific examples include individuals who have been able to overcome deeply ingrained biases through the practices of conscious awareness, and this demonstrates that a more holistic and compassionate approach to life is not just an ideal, but a practical path for creating a more harmonious and unified experience. Therefore, by integrating these practices into our daily lives, we move beyond the illusion of separation into a greater understanding of unity and compassion. Now that you understand that the illusion of separation is not real, and that the living force of Yahweh flows through all things, we must now explore how we can actively step into our innate divinity, and how we can use this knowledge to unlock the path to self-mastery, realizing that you are not separate from the source of creation, you are an individual expression of it. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to fully embrace your divine nature, to recognize that you are not just a human being, but also a powerful expression of consciousness, and that the source of creation resides within your own being. The concept of innate divinity is not just an esoteric idea. It is a fundamental truth that has been recognized by mystics and sages throughout time, that we are not separate from the divine, but individual expressions of it. And it is through this understanding that we unlock the true potential for self-mastery. The phrase, "you are God," is not meant to be taken literally in the egoic sense, but rather that you are a unique expression of the divine source. And when you realize that the same power that creates the universe also resides within you, then you begin to understand that there are no limits to your own potential. And it is through this realization that you begin to tap into the full extent of your own being. Specific examples include individuals who have been able to achieve seemingly impossible feats, demonstrating that the potential for greatness resides within all beings. Therefore, by embracing the idea of your own innate divinity, you move beyond the limitations of your perceived human existence and begin to recognize your true power and potential. If we are individual expressions of the divine, then how can we access higher states of consciousness and connect with the inner guidance that resides within us? And how can these practices lead to a greater understanding of ourselves and the universe? Higher states of consciousness are not some unattainable goal, but are accessible through consistent practices of self-reflection and exploration, which, when engaged, will help you to connect to the inner guidance that is available to you at all times. The practices of meditation and contemplation can help to quiet the mental chatter, creating a space for intuition to guide you, and when this inner voice is given space to be expressed, it will guide you to your true nature. By taking the time to explore our inner world and to question our limiting beliefs, we begin to unlock a wealth of inner wisdom that goes far beyond the scope of our conscious minds. Specific examples include individuals who have had profound insights and revelations through the practices of meditation and self-reflection, showing that these practices are a key to unlocking our full potential. Therefore, by cultivating these practices, we can access higher states of awareness and connect to the inner guidance that is constantly available to us, leading us to greater wisdom and a deeper sense of purpose. If the path to self-mastery is through accessing higher states of consciousness, then what is the role of self-love and acceptance, and how does this act as a necessary foundation for our inner transformation, and why is it often the most difficult step to take? Self-love and acceptance are not just abstract ideals, they are the very foundation upon which all transformation is built. For if we do not love and accept ourselves with all our imperfections, we are unable to create space for growth. And without this foundation, our inner work will always be limited, because you cannot change what you do not accept. Self-criticism and self-doubt are limiting factors that often keep us in a state of disempowerment. But as you begin to shift your perspective and embrace the journey of self-acceptance, your true potential is made available to you. The ability to forgive yourself for your perceived mistakes is an essential step to your liberation, as by choosing to forgive yourself, you choose to release the limiting beliefs of the past and move forward without these burdens. Specific examples include individuals who have transformed their lives after learning self-acceptance, demonstrating that it is not something to be strived for, but something to be embraced as a necessary component for transformation. Therefore, by cultivating self-love and acceptance, we begin to heal the wounds of the past and create the necessary foundation for personal transformation, realizing that we are enough, just as we are, and from this place, we begin to move into greater potential. If self-love and acceptance are the foundation for transformation, then what specific steps can we now take to develop a daily practice that will help us realize our true potential? And how can we integrate all of the concepts that we have now explored into a personalized plan for transformation and move forward with conscious action? Developing a daily practice is not about following a strict set of rules, but about creating a system that supports our unique needs and goals. And when we consciously choose the elements that resonate most deeply within us, we will create an experience that allows for a consistent movement towards self-mastery. Start with setting aside a dedicated time for meditation, self-reflection, and contemplation, and use journaling to explore your thoughts and feelings without judgment. Create a daily ritual for gratitude, focusing on all that you already have, rather than focusing on what is lacking. Use intention setting to choose the actions that you will take each day in order to move towards your desired outcome, and use visualization techniques to program your subconscious mind with positive outcomes. Specific examples include using breathwork to release negative emotions, practicing loving kindness towards all beings, and consistently taking action that aligns with your highest self. Therefore, by combining these practices, we create a daily method for self-realization and a powerful catalyst for profound personal transformation, and a consistent method for moving along the path of self-mastery. Now that you understand that the divine resides within, not as an external source, and that you have the power to shape your own reality, it is time to explore how we can integrate all of this esoteric wisdom into our daily lives, and use it to make decisions that are aligned with our values and intentions. And it is through this daily integration that we move from the realm of theory to the realm of experience. Have you ever wondered how these esoteric ideas can be practically applied to everyday decisions, and if it is truly possible to move through the world with a greater sense of awareness, purpose, and intention, and how these ancient wisdom traditions can apply to modern realities? The integration of esoteric principles into daily decision-making is not about following a set of rigid rules, but about understanding the underlying laws of the universe and making conscious choices that are aligned with those laws, and that every decision that you make has an impact. And if you choose to make these decisions with awareness, they will act as an opportunity to practice self-mastery. Instead of operating on autopilot and reacting to the world around you, the goal is to move into a place where you make every choice from a place of conscious awareness. And by making these decisions from a place of clarity and intention, they will become powerful acts of self-mastery. Specific examples include choosing to react with compassion rather than anger in conflict, or choosing to live with gratitude rather than focusing on what is lacking. And it is in these small moments that the transformation takes place. Therefore, by integrating these esoteric principles into our daily actions, we become conscious co-creators of our experience, and we live with more purpose, clarity, and intention. If we are consciously making choices that align with universal principles, then what is the role of creative expression in our journey of personal transformation? And how can we use our artistic talents to move beyond limitations and create a life that is aligned with our true potential? Creative expression is not just about making art. It is a method for tapping into the deepest aspects of our inner world, and the creative process, when engaged from a place of conscious awareness, can become a powerful tool for personal transformation, as it is through this creative force that we express our unique perspective on the world, and when that expression is aligned with intention, it becomes an incredibly powerful form of magic. Every act of creation, whether it is through painting, music, writing, or dance, is an act of co-creation with the living force of Yahweh. And it is through this expression that we tap into our deepest desires and create a tangible representation of them. Specific examples include artists who have used their work as a method of healing and self-discovery, demonstrating that the act of creation is also a powerful method for personal transformation. And each time you take a step into your own creative potential, you are taking a step into a more empowered version of yourself. Therefore, by embracing creative expression, we can move beyond the limitations of our mind and into a more authentic and empowered expression of our true nature. If creative expression is a path for personal transformation, then what is the role of community and shared understanding? And how can our connection with other like-minded individuals enhance our personal journey and allow us to grow and evolve at a faster rate? The journey of self-mastery does not have to be a solitary path, and the support and encouragement of a community of like-minded individuals can significantly enhance our personal journey. And when we come together with a shared understanding of esoteric principles, we create a powerful network of support and growth. And it is through this community that we share our challenges and celebrate our victories, thus helping to strengthen our resolve and move forward with a deeper understanding. Community is not just about finding people who think the same way as you, it is also about finding people who will challenge you and help you to grow. And it is through our interactions with other people that we are challenged to examine our own beliefs and expand our perspectives. Specific examples include spiritual groups and meditation circles, where individuals come together to share their experiences and support each other, and these interactions show that the power of community helps us to navigate the path to self-mastery with a greater sense of support and shared understanding. Therefore, by creating connections with other individuals who are on the same path, we are not only enhancing our own growth, but also contributing to the collective evolution of humanity. If you have been paying attention, you should now realize that you have all of the tools that you need to create your own personalized path of self-mastery, and that these ideas and practices are not meant to be dogmatic rules, but rather guides for your own inner exploration. And when we look at the world through this new perspective, we can see that the power to transform was always within. This is not about blindly following a set of instructions, but about engaging with these ideas through your own direct experience and using these principles as a starting point to develop your own unique methods and rituals, understanding that the journey to transformation is unique to each individual. You must choose the specific practices, rituals, and techniques that resonate with you, and then consistently integrate them into your daily life. And it is through this conscious engagement that you will create your own personalized path of self-mastery. The power to change your life is not something to be given to you from the outside. It is the very essence of your being, and it is time to fully embrace this power and step into the creation of your own destiny. Therefore, by understanding that the path is unique to each individual, you are empowered to embrace your own journey of self-discovery and create a life that is a true expression of your highest potential. You now stand at the precipice of a profound choice, a choice that will determine the direction of your life, for you must decide if you will continue to live within the old limitations or embrace the potential that lies dormant within your own being. And this choice is not a simple decision, it is a commitment to a new way of being, a journey that will require both courage and dedication. But know that the power to change is always within you. The knowledge that you have gained, combined with the practical techniques that you have now explored, are the tools that you need to consciously create the life that you desire, and you now have the necessary information to break free from the old limitations and step into your true potential. And it is through your willingness to embrace this path that you set into motion the potential for radical transformation. Remember that your personal journey is also directly tied to the collective evolution of humanity, and that every individual who chooses to step into their power contributes to the creation of a more beautiful world. And as you begin to transform your own reality, you also help to transform the reality of those around you. Prepare now for the final revelation that will offer the final key to unlock your potential, because the last section is the moment where all of the concepts come together, creating the foundation for continued exploration and sustained growth. Remember these words as you move forward: you are the power, and it is time to step into it. If you now understand that Yahweh is not an external, anthropomorphic deity, but a living, breathing, universal principle permeating all of existence, then you must also understand that this revelation shifts the entire paradigm from one of subservience to one of co-creation. And it is through this understanding that you are no longer at the mercy of an external force, but rather, you are an active participant in the unfolding of the universe, a conscious expression of the divine itself, and this understanding is not just an abstract concept, it is a fundamental shift in perspective that places the power to transform directly within your own hands. The traditional view of Yahweh as a separate entity demands worship and obedience, yet the understanding of Yahweh as a cosmic principle invites partnership and collaboration, and this is the fundamental key to stepping into your innate divinity. By reinterpreting ancient texts and esoteric traditions, we discover a wealth of information that shows us that our personal power has been hidden in plain sight, and the shift from an external deity to an internal divinity is not merely a change in belief. It is a profound transformation of your very relationship with reality. And it is through this shift that the true potential for self-mastery is unlocked. The journey that we have been on has been designed to lead you from an external reliance on tradition to an internal understanding of your own power, and it is through questioning the old belief systems that you began to open yourself to a deeper understanding. And as you have reinterpreted ancient texts and explored hidden meanings, you have begun to see that the answers to the great mysteries lie not outside of yourself, but within, and this inner journey of self-discovery is not just an intellectual exercise, it is a powerful method of self-liberation that allows you to break free from the limitations of external authority. Through exploring your inner landscape, you have begun to access previously untapped aspects of your own consciousness, and by aligning with the universal principles, you have started to understand that you are not a separate entity, but an integral part of the larger whole. All of these points lead us to the singular understanding that you are the master of your destiny, and that true power comes not from without, but from the divine spark within, and you are now fully equipped to start the transformation process. The concept of Yahweh as a universal force emphasizes the interconnectedness of all things, demonstrating that everything is linked, and that there is no true separation between any part of existence. And when we understand that we are all expressions of the same universal consciousness, we begin to see that our actions have consequences that ripple throughout the entirety of reality. This understanding moves beyond the limited perception of a personal God into a recognition of the grand, unified tapestry of life, and this connection to the universal force is not just about understanding the universe, it is also about understanding our place within it, and that we are not merely individual observers, but active participants in the continuous unfolding of reality. Therefore, the understanding of Yahweh as the underlying fabric of existence demonstrates that our every choice and intention carries a weight and significance that goes far beyond our immediate experience. And as you step into this new understanding, you step into your role as a conscious co-creator. Through this entire journey, we have been breaking down the old structures and building new ones in their place, revealing that your ability to shape your own experience is not a distant ideal, but a present reality that is ready to be fully embraced, and this understanding of our innate divinity, combined with a new view of Yahweh as a creative force, demonstrates that you are empowered to actively shape the world around you, and that you are not a passive recipient of fate, but rather a conscious architect of your own experience. By recognizing that you are not just a victim of circumstance, but an active co-creator of your reality, you begin to move beyond limiting beliefs and step into your full potential as a powerful force of transformation. This realization is not simply an intellectual concept, it is a direct call to action, a challenge to take responsibility for the world that you choose to create, and the understanding that this is not just wishful thinking, but an accurate reflection of how the universe is structured and the true source of all power. When you bring this new understanding of Yahweh into the larger context of universal spiritual truths, you see that similar concepts and principles are not unique to the Israelite tradition, but are found across various cultures and religions, demonstrating that the same understanding has appeared many times in many different forms. The underlying theme of a universal creative force, a collective consciousness, and the power of inner divinity are not exclusive to a single belief system, but rather are part of the collective human understanding of the nature of reality. And when we compare these similar threads between systems, we begin to see that this is not simply the dogma of one group of people, but an ancient and universal understanding. Traditions from across the globe have all described the concept of interconnectedness, the idea of an underlying energetic flow, and the presence of the divine within each individual, demonstrating that these are not just isolated spiritual teachings, but a shared understanding that has emerged in numerous locations over the course of human history, demonstrating that these principles are part of a shared human experience. The process of deconstruction and reconstruction is not just an intellectual exercise, but it is the very engine of personal growth, and it is through the willingness to question our old belief systems that we create space for more expansive understandings, and this process of letting go of the old and embracing the new is the very mechanism for transformation. When we actively engage in the act of dismantling our limiting perspectives, we are creating a vacuum that can be filled with a more empowered version of ourself. And this cycle of change is not about completely destroying the old ways of thinking, but about using the lessons from the past to build a more expansive and integrated perspective. And it is through this process of continuous reevaluation that we move forward on the path of self-mastery, and that is a cycle that must continue as we grow and evolve throughout our lives. This cycle of transformation is not meant to be a single event, but an ongoing process of self-discovery, and it is through your willingness to adapt and grow that you find the pathway to liberation. The most powerful implication of this new understanding is the reclamation of personal power and responsibility, for now you understand that you are not a passive bystander, but an active creator of your own life, and this shift in perspective is not just an intellectual concept, but a direct call to action. The moment you understand that you are in partnership with the living force of Yahweh, you must also understand that your choices and intentions are the very tools through which you shape your experience, and this knowledge requires that you start to take responsibility for the world that you create. And this is not about placing blame on yourself for the past, but about stepping into a more empowered and conscious way of being in the present. The power to transform your life has always been within you, and now that you have a greater awareness of these universal principles, and you now understand how your intentions can be put into action, you must now be willing to embrace the challenge of creating a life that reflects your highest potential. This journey from relying on external authority to recognizing and embracing your own internal power is the path of self-mastery, and it requires that you become your own guru, for the answers you seek must always come from within, and this is not about abandoning all forms of guidance, but about learning how to discern the wisdom that resonates with your own inner knowing. The reliance on external sources ultimately leads to a place of disempowerment, while the cultivation of internal guidance creates a strong and unwavering sense of personal authority, and it is through this that we begin to understand that we are not separate from the source of our own wisdom. This shift from external to internal authority is not just a change in location, it is a fundamental shift in perspective that places the locus of control firmly within yourself, and as you learn to trust your own inner knowing, you will become the only authority required on your journey. The esoteric, historical, and scientific ideas that we have explored have all led us to this single point of understanding, that Yahweh is not a separate entity, but the underlying fabric of reality itself, a living force that is constantly creating and recreating, and it is through this singular understanding that we resolve the initial question and create a sense of completion. The ideas and concepts that you have explored are not just disparate parts, but are all interconnected aspects of a greater whole, a single unified understanding of the nature of reality, and this is the key to understanding that science and ancient wisdom are not two separate systems, but two sides of the same coin, both revealing different aspects of the same universal truth. The esoteric provides the framework, the historical provides the context, and the science provides the validation, all working together to form a clear and cohesive understanding of the divine and our place within it. Through the journey that you have been on, you have unlocked the key to your own individual power, and the knowledge that you have gained is not just meant for intellectual understanding, but a tool for radical transformation, for it is through this new understanding that you are not just gaining knowledge, but also the ability to rewrite your personal code and step into your role as a conscious creator of your own life, and that the steps that you have taken on this journey have not been for naught, as you have been led here step by step, through a process that is designed to bring you to this specific point of realization, where you understand that you have always been the power. This emergence of personal power is not a destination, but a starting point, as you step into a deeper understanding of your own capabilities and move forward with a sense of purpose and intention. The journey from passive observer to active participant is now complete, and you are now ready to create a new chapter in your own life. The question of who is Yahweh is no longer a mystery, for you now understand that Yahweh is not a singular, definable entity, but a symbol for the much larger concept of universal consciousness. And this understanding requires that each individual now take personal responsibility for defining what this concept means to them on a personal level. The specific meaning and understanding of Yahweh will be unique to each individual, and it is not up to anyone else to define it for you, as the journey of self-discovery is unique to the individual, and therefore, the answer must come from within your own direct experience. The knowledge and tools provided throughout this video are meant to act as a guide, and it is now up to each viewer to take the next step and choose their own path, for the only authority that you require is your own internal knowing, and the only true judge of your journey is yourself. The tension that has been created throughout this video now finds its release in the clear understanding that liberation from limiting beliefs, dogmas, and fear-based systems is within your reach, for you now understand that these limitations are not external realities, but internal constructs of the mind, and that you have the power to change them through conscious choice. The fear that you have been carrying has been nothing more than a self-imposed limitation, and the power to release it comes from within your own consciousness, and the act of consciously choosing to step into your own power will begin the process of dissolving these limitations, and it is through this realization that you are empowered to make changes to your own life, and this is the path to freedom. A path that begins from within and is only limited by the boundaries that you place on your own consciousness. This journey has now provided you with new questions and a deeper understanding that will further your exploration of the nature of consciousness and reality, as this video is not an end point, but a starting point for a much larger journey of self-discovery, and you are now equipped with the necessary tools to continue this exploration. What is the true nature of the self? What other realities exist beyond our own? How far can our consciousness truly reach? These questions are designed to continue pushing you forward on the path of knowledge, for the answers will only come through sustained exploration, and by engaging with these concepts from your own personal perspective, your unique understanding of the universe will unfold. Remember that the journey of self-discovery is a lifelong process, not just a single event, and the more you push beyond the boundaries of the known, the more you will grow and evolve. The implications of this personal transformation extend far beyond the individual, for as more people awaken to their own innate divinity, a collective shift in human consciousness will begin to take place, and the power of a conscious community is a force that will shape the world in a more positive direction. When more people understand that they are co-creators of their own reality, they begin to see the potential for a world that is not based on limitation and fear, but on cooperation and shared intention. Every choice that you make contributes to the larger picture, and as you step into your own power, you contribute to the collective evolution of humanity. This understanding of shared responsibility is the first step towards a new paradigm and the key to creating a better world for future generations. I now invite you to share your own experiences, insights, and practices in the comments below, as this will not only enhance your own understanding, but also enrich the experience of the community. And it is through this shared exploration that we can all grow and evolve at a faster pace. Continue exploring these concepts and consciously create the reality that you desire, for you now have the tools and understanding required to be the master of your own destiny. I have shown you the path, and now it is your turn to walk it, and to not just consume this information, but to put it into action in all aspects of your daily life, and to actively practice these principles until they are no longer concepts, but the very foundation of how you perceive the world. As you continue your journey, you can expect further content that will continue to explore these themes and help you to continue to develop your personal understanding, and you are invited to subscribe to our channel so that you can continue to be guided along the pathway of self-discovery. The journey continues, and as you have learned, the power was always within you. Like, share, subscribe, and comment below.